Chapter 788, Foundation Establishment Celebration. Zhao Qingqing's initiative _1/2 a month later, Hong Yi arrived at Bai Lake Mountain. He had also received an invitation from Zhao Qingqing. Therefore, this trip to Bai Lake Mountain was to prepare to visit Qingyun's sect together with Lu Chongqing. He also took the opportunity to visit his son, Hong Xuanji. You won't need much longer to break through the 6th level energy refinement. Hong Yi felt both surprised and delighted upon hearing his son's words. His son, now 23 years old, was about to break through to the 6th level energy refinement. This pace of cultivation had already surpassed most of his peers. It should be known that he himself was still at the cultivation level of 6th level energy refinement. Yes, and Uncle Lu has allowed our family to teach me an exquisite level cultivation technique. Source, web novel. Updated on. Hong Xuanji said to his father in a quiet voice. An exquisite level cultivation technique. Upon hearing these words, Hong Yi was inwardly shocked. Though the father and son had exchanged letters, the son had not mentioned this matter in his letters. Now, hearing it for the first time, he was at a loss for words. With such kindness from Brother Lu, I, Hong Yi, have no way to repay. Hong Yi felt deeply moved, not expecting the other party to take such good care of his son. Thinking of their 30 years of acquaintance, and how he owed much of his current achievement to Lu Changsheng's support, he spoke solemnly. Xuanji, you concentrate on your cultivation and responsibilities at Bai Lake Mountain. If there is anything, you can ask your Chuanzhen brother for advice and write to your father, Hong Yi so instructed. Since Lu Chuanzhen had experienced the secular world in his early years, Hong Yi always encouraged his son to keep company with Lu Chuanzhen, and the two had a very good relationship. Your son understands, Hong Xuanji responded in a low voice. He resembled his father, Hong Yi, in appearance. But compared to Hong Yi in his youth, he lacked a bit of haughtiness and possessed a bit more steadiness. When Lu Chongqing found out that Hong Yi was coming over, he went to the guest hall to greet him. Brother Lu. Uncle Lu. Both of them promptly said with respect. Haha, Brother Hong, Xuanji. Lu Chongqing, in a green robe, smiled and appeared casual and at ease. Xuanji has been causing Brother Lu trouble these years. Hong Yi politely said to Lu Chongqing. He was dressed in a purple brocade and wore a purple gold crown, and having long been accustomed to a life of dignity and high position, he carried an aura of authority without anger. Yet in the presence of Lu Chongqing, he unconsciously took a very humble posture. Haha, Brother Hong, you're too courteous. Xuanji has performed quite well over the years, and there's no trouble at all, Lu Chongqing said as he waved his hand. Since Lu Chuanzhen had gone out into the world, Hong Xuanji had taken on a leadership role in the wine brewing workshop, and he was quite capable in both personal conduct and skill. Moreover, Lu Chongqing had learned from his wife Chu Xinzhen that, due to the relationship with Lu Chuanzhen, his daughter Lu Caizhen and Hong Xuanji had grown quite close. Straight away, the two men sat down to catch up and chat. Who would have thought that among the 6 of us back then, 3 would become Foundation Establishment great cultivators? Such an achievement is enough for me to boast for many years. I have no regrets in this life, Hong Yi said with a smile, remarking with emotion. It was beyond his expectations that, 30 years ago, 6 of them were selected to join the Qingyun sect for the Immortal sects assessment. As time passed, 3 of them consecutively broke through to Foundation Establishment. Brother Hong is still young. If you focus on cultivation, perhaps you too can break through to Foundation Establishment. Lu Chongqing noticed Hong Yi's cultivation level, at the 6th level energy refinement. If he put in the effort, he had a chance to attempt Foundation Establishment by the age of 60. Although the hope of successfully establishing his foundation was very slim. Brother Lu jests, how could I dare to dream of such a thing as Foundation Establishment, Hong Yi said with a shake of his head and laughter. Though there were 3 Foundation Establishment great cultivators around him, such an endeavor still seemed out of reach for him, and he dared not covet it. Currently, Even a high-rank breakthrough elixir was too costly for him to consider buying without hesitation. Besides, now that his son, Hong Xuanji, proved to have such promise, if he, as a father, could save up a considerable sum of money, his son might have a future chance to break through to foundation establishment. Heh, Lu Chongqing chuckled and didn't dwell on the topic. He was aware that after becoming the Marquis of Rui, Hong Yi gradually lacked ambition in cultivation. Furthermore, given the other's age and spiritual root, unless there was a major fortuity, there indeed wasn't much hope for foundation establishment. After briefly catching up, they stayed at By Lake Mountain for 2 days before heading to Qingyun sect. 3 days later, a flying boat descended in front of the gates of Qingyun sect. Lu Chongqing took out a transmission talisman. Not long after, a verdant escape light flew from the gate, enveloped in the spiritual pressure of a foundation establishment cultivator. Greetings, Martial Uncle. Greetings, Martial Uncle. The disciples guarding the gate promptly offered their respects upon seeing the newcomer. Although they didn't necessarily recognize the person, in Qingyun sect, energy refining cultivators addressed foundation establishment cultivators as Martial Uncle as a matter of course. Lu Daoist, Hong Daoist, the newcomer was Zhao Qingqing. Her skin was fair, her figure tall and graceful, wearing a green-colored dress, with her long, silky black hair neatly gathered, and with a plum-blossom jade hairpin slanting across it. Her beautiful features were adorned with a gentle smile. After breaking through to foundation establishment, her charisma was exceptional. Her entire being exuded a vibrant and fresh aura of flourishing plants and grass, elegant like an orchid in a secluded valley, touching the soul. Zhao Daoist, congratulations on your breakthrough to foundation establishment. Lu Chongqing and Hong Yi bowed with their hands folded and then offered the congratulatory gifts they had prepared. Thank you both, Daoist friends. Please, this way. Zhao Qingqing accepted the gifts and looked at Lu Chongqing with a tender gaze. It is customary to adjust one's state thoroughly after a breakthrough to ensure the vitality, energy, and spirit are abundant, and one's thoughts are clear. Soar the Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. At the time of her breakthrough, she had questioned her deepest heart and had come to understand many things more clearly. Then, the three of them entered the gate and came to a mountain peak filled with ancient pines and green cypresses, cascading waterfalls, and palaces reaching thousands of feet high where they descended at the waist of the mountain. This spirit vein of Qingyun sect is truly grand, Lu Chongqing remarked, eyeing the many peaks of Qingyun sect, guessing each must contain at least a second-rank spirit vein, and he couldn't help feeling envious. Zhao Qingqing's modest foundation establishment celebration was to be held at her own abode. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 789, Foundation Establishment Celebration. Zhao Qingqing's initiative. The dwelling wasn't large, covering only about 7 or 8 acres. But it had everything one needed: a main courtyard, quiet rooms, gardens, ponds, spirit fields, a medicinal herb garden, and a beast pen. At this moment, the main hall was filled with a gathering of cultivators. Most of them were foundation establishment cultivators, with only a few energy-refining cultivators present. Although it was a minor celebration for the foundation establishment, within Qingyun sect, foundation establishment cultivators still held some weight, considered as part of the middle hierarchy. Therefore, whenever someone broke through to foundation establishment, many fellow sect members and friends would come to offer congratulations and network. Especially for a female cultivator like Zhao Qingqing, who was skilled in the botany and pharmacology of spirit plants and had a vague body suitable for logistical support, many came with ulterior motives. The moment the three of them walked into the hall, many eyes landed straight on them. Hong Yi's face turned pale, his body felt heavy, and he nearly collapsed to the ground. There were more than 10 foundation establishment cultivators in the room. Although they weren't deliberately exuding their foundation establishment's spiritual pressure, they didn't completely suppress it either. As a result, when such gazes converged, it posed a huge pressure for an ordinary energy-refining cultivator. Source: Web novel. Com. Updated on. Kolu Changsheng's body exuded an invisible spiritual pressure, which made Hong Yi relax all over. This is my good friend, Lu Chongsheng of Bai Lake Mountain. This is my good friend, Hong Yi. Lu Daoist, Hong Daoist, please take a seat. These are all my fellow sect brothers and sisters, no need to be polite. Seeing this, Zhao Qingqing immediately introduced them out loud to ease the awkwardness. Bai Lake Mountain, Lu Chongsheng. He is indeed the Lu Mountain Lord of Bai Lake Mountain, so very handsome. I've heard that this mountain master of Bai Lake Mountain is incomparably handsome, and it truly isn't an undeserved reputation. Once Zhao Qingqing introduced him, the crowd in the hall turned their attention to Lu Chongsheng. Although they were disciples of Qingyun's sect, the name of Bai Lake Mountain Master, Lu Chongsheng, was not unfamiliar to them. Whether it was his defeat of the Yu family's 3 foundation establishment cultivators or the suppression of Xiaohou money, as well as the slaying of 6 robber cultivators during the Red Leaf Valley market incident years ago, his reputation had greatly risen. I, Lu Ruyan, have long heard of Mountain Lord Lu's great name. It is a fortune to meet you today, so I'd like to honor Mountain Lord Lu with a toast, said a buxom woman in a yellow dress, picking up a cup of spiritual wine and greeting Lu Chongsheng with a smile. I am Fang Hong, and I have seen Lu Daoist. I am Wu Jiuzhou, and I have seen Lu Daoist. I am. Several cultivators in the hall warmly greeted Lu Chongsheng. Although as disciples of the Immortal sects, they usually did not hold loose cultivators and small family forces in high regard, someone like Lu Chongsheng, who had shown remarkable combat abilities and was also a second-tier top-level talisman master, was naturally someone they were very willing to make connections with. Lu Daoist, Hong Daoist. Han Lin was also there to attend the celebration, and he greeted Lu Chongsheng and Hong Yi. Ha, Han Daoist. Hong Yi cupped his hands in salute towards Han Lin and took a seat next to him. He knew gatherings like this were out of his world. Not all foundation establishment great cultivators were like Lu Chongsheng, who remembered old friendships and were willing to make connections with him. Ha, everyone is too kind. Lu Chongsheng, under the enthusiastic and proactive greetings of the others, quickly became integrated into the group. He was somewhat surprised that Xiao Xie had not come. Though Xiao Xie and Zhao Qingqing weren't particularly close, such a small foundation establishment celebration would typically warrant her congratulations. Through asking around, he found out that due to the matter with Xiaohou money, Xiao Xie had gone out on a mission. While drinking and chatting with everyone, Lu Chongsheng noticed a plump cultivator casting envious glances at him from time to time. After paying a bit more attention, he learned the identity of this individual. It turned out to be Zhao Qingqing's master's grandson, named Lu Gongliang, who had failed his foundation establishment breakthrough 3 years ago. With that, Lu Chongsheng roughly guessed why the other party was envious. However, as long as the other party did not provoke him, Lu Chongsheng couldn't be bothered to deal with him. The celebration lasted a long time, with people coming and going, some leaving halfway, and others arriving later to give their congratulations and join the event. As night fell and they had their fill of food and drink, Lu Daoist, Hong Daoist, as it's getting late, why don't you both stay here for the night? Zhao Qingqing said to Lu Chongsheng and Hong Yi. Since that's the case, well, trouble you then, Zhao Daoist, said Lu Chongsheng after a brief pause. He had intended to visit his children on this trip. Now that it was already late and he had drunk so much, it wasn't convenient for him to go there. Soon after, Zhao Qingqing arranged accommodation for both of them. Lu Daoist. After showing Lu Chongsheng to his room, Zhao Qingqing didn't immediately leave. What's the matter? Lu Chongsheng looked towards the tall and graceful Zhao Qingqing in her blue-green silk dress, fresh and refined. She had drunk quite a lot, Her beautiful and refined face blushed with a hint of tipsiness, adding a bit more charm to her demeanor. Although cultivators can use their mana to dispel the effects of alcohol, most wouldn't do so as it removes the pleasure of drinking and dissipates the benefits of the spiritual wine. If it weren't for Lu Daoist's premium Foundation Establishment elixir, Qingqing certainly wouldn't have been able to break through to Foundation Establishment, so I am deeply grateful to Lu Daoist, Zhao Qingqing said, her eyes filled with gratitude as she gave a deep bow. SAR the Novel Fire, net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. She had indeed succeeded in her foundation establishment, but having gone through the process herself, she realized just how difficult it was. She knew that if she hadn't had Lu Changsheng's foundation establishment elixir, based on the meridian protecting elixir she had prepared originally, she surely would have failed the breakthrough. Zhao Daoist is too kind. The main reason for your breakthrough is your own efforts. The foundation establishment elixir simply added a final touch, Lu Changxing said with a smile, waving his hand lightly to indicate that there was no need for formality. With such a favor from Lu Daoist, Qingqing feels ashamed and doesn't know how to repay you, said Zhao Qingqing, standing tall and blushing as she looked at Lu Changsheng. Then, as if gathering her courage, she took hold of Lu Changsheng's hand, her eyes filled with shyness. Lu Changsheng was slightly startled when Zhao Qingqing's soft and delicate hand grasped his own. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 790, Foundation Establishment Celebration. Zhao Qingqing's initiative whiffs of intoxicating scent that delighted the heart and spleen, rich and fragrant, filled the air, and a pair of tender, bashful eyes full of gentle affection looked at him. Lu Daoist, you said before, Zhao Qingqing, her face flushed with shyness, began softly. However, before she could finish speaking, a warm breath rushed towards her face, and she felt her lips being captured. Lu Changxing pulled the beautiful woman tightly into his arms, skillfully seizing the sweetness. Since Zhao Qingqing was so forward, he naturally would not hold back, pretending to be a gentleman. After all, with matters such as these, if you're not proactive and seize the opportunity, you might just miss it. In the face of this sudden storm, Zhao Qingqing's delicate frame shuddered, her body rigid yet tingling. Subsequently, she felt a large hand traverse the towering peaks of her chest, sweeping over the mountains and causing waves of numbness through her body. Her shapely legs trembled and could hardly support her. In such a situation, her only choice was to lift her slender arms and gently cling to Lu Changsheng's neck. Gently. I can't breathe. Source, web novel. Com, updated on. It was unclear how much time had passed when Zhao Qingqing, having just achieved foundation establishment, was gasping for air. Her clear, beautiful face flushed red, her lustrous black hair became disheveled, and her bright, beautiful eyes were filled with emotions and timidity. Her green dress too bore the wrinkles of their embrace. Qingqing, Lu Changxing held Zhao Qingqing's hand, his gaze deep with feeling as he looked at her. Lu Lang, be gentle. Zhao Qingqing's eyes looked drunken, her face flushed, her forehead coy, voicing her nervous anxiety. As soon as she finished speaking, her lips were again forcefully claimed. Without a doubt, this was a prelude. Intimately, the two moved towards the bedside, accompanied by rustling sounds. The green dress began to slip away, revealing bright lights, the skin beneath as tender and pale as jade. Before long, the beauty was left only in her pair of green embroidered shoes and the white silk stockings wrapped around her jade feet. Zhao Qingqing had a fine figure, well proportioned. But what attracted the most attention were her shapely, long legs, not just for their length, but also for their plump and firm texture. Possibly due to her cultivation technique, her skin was extraordinarily fair and smooth, with a refreshing fragrance. Qingqing. Lu Changxing carried the beauty to the bed, intending to say something. But seeing her shy face, her eyes timid yet inviting, looking ready to be plucked, he said no more. At this time, silence spoke volumes. Under the hazy night, two figures in the room gradually merged as one. The next day, the morning light pierced through layers of clouds, shining through the lattice windows into the loft. Zhao Qingqing woke up, her hair disheveled, her skin rosy white and radiant, glowing with a lustrous sheen. She lay there uncovered, save for the exquisite jade feet clad in white silk stockings. "You're awake." At that moment, Lu Chongqing awoke, speaking warmly with a laugh. His demeanor was calm and natural, as if a couple years deep in love, utterly at ease. Zhao Qingqing looked at the handsome face before her, the robust and powerful body, and her cheeks tinged pink. Though somewhat tipsy the previous night, she was more or less lucid, merely emboldened by the alcohol. She just hadn't expected that her long-mustered courage, barely put into action, would be met with such initiative from Lu Chongqing, and then her mind became as muddled. Zhao Qingqing replied softly, suddenly at a loss for words. After all, though she had been prepared, she hadn't expected things to happen so fast. "Do you have matters to attend to today? If not, you might as well rest a little longer." Lu Chongqing spoke softly. "I've just broken through to Foundation establishment, and there are some new affairs in the sect that I need to get acquainted with, Sir the Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality." Zhao Qingqing replied, her voice husky and alluring. "Has your master been giving you trouble?" Lu Chongqing asked. He knew Zhao Qingqing had not been valued in her sect because of her master's attitude, forcing her to rely on herself. "Before, the master was just neglecting me, not making things too difficult. Since my breakthrough, he has taken the initiative to visit me, entrusting many matters of the herb garden to me." Zhao Qingqing said softly. This breakthrough allowed her to see more of the world's indifference and warmth. For example, during the small celebration of her Foundation establishment, many fellow disciples whom she had never met before, or even knew little, came to congratulate her. Even her master, right after her breakthrough, congratulated her and extended his goodwill. It was precisely because of this that she felt even more grateful for Lu Changsheng's timely help, deeming such kindness beyond repayment. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 791, Emperor's Flow Liquid, by Ling's Breakthrough in Foundation Establishment _1 inch. If anything happens, you can tell me, and you're welcome to come to Bai Lake Mountain anytime, Lu Chongqing said warmly. He didn't say that he wanted Zhao Qingqing to follow him back to Bai Lake Mountain. For one, she was currently in the Qingyun sect, which was clearly better, and it would be convenient to go to Bai Lake Mountain later on. Moreover, as cultivators and Foundation establishment cultivators, there was no need to insist on getting married immediately. Sir the Fire. Ed website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Since they were fellow practitioners, holding a ceremony to become cultivation partners in the future would suffice. In fact, Lu Chongqing also hoped that his wife, concubines, and cultivation partners could have their own accomplishments and not necessarily be confined to Bai Lake Mountain. As for having children, as long as it came naturally, love would certainly bear fruit. "Okay," Zhao Qingqing responded softly. The two snuggled and chatted for a while, then got up, dressed, and walked out of the room. Although it was Zhao Qingqing's first time, she was after all a foundation building great cultivator and didn't suffer too much. Source, web novel. Com, updated on. Moreover, since she had a vague body and cultivated wood attribute techniques, her recovery was extraordinary. Hong Yi was somewhat surprised to see Lu Chongqing and Zhao Qingqing walking together intimately. Indeed, when he first met Zhao Qingqing the day before, he noticed her looking at Lu Chongqing with more warmth than in the early years, but he didn't expect them to be so intimately natural. Some guesses formed in his mind, but he didn't ask further. He knew this was not something he should concern himself with. It was like earlier on when he realized the relationship between Lu Chongqing and Xiao Xie seemed more than ordinary. Brother Lu, Daoist Zhao. Hong Yi greeted them with a hearty smile on his face. Brother Hong, I'm planning to see my children before returning. Will you come with me or wait here for me? Lu Chongqing asked Hong Yi. Brother Lu, please feel free to go, just let me know when you're leaving, Hong Yi replied. All right. Lu Chongqing nodded and then went with Zhao Qingqing to see their children. Although Zhao Qingqing also had things to attend to, there was no hurry. Moreover, as an outsider, it wasn't convenient for Lu Chongqing to wander around the Qingyun sect alone. Tisk, Hong Yi watched as Lu Chongqing and Zhao Qingqing turned into beams of escape light and left, feeling quite emotional. He vividly recalled how 10 years ago, Xiao Xie invited Lu Chongqing to experience the mortal world, and their relationship gradually grew closer. Now it was the same with Zhao Qingqing. But when did the two of them become patrons of Bai Lake Mountain? Or Foundation establishers, Hong Yi pondered a little before shaking his head, dispelling the thought. When he saw Xiao Xie asking Lu Chongqing to travel the mortal world, he had felt a bit bitter. But now, seeing Lu Chongqing with Zhao Qingqing, all he thought was that Lu Chongqing was awesome. Daddy, Auntie Zhao. Father, Auntie Zhao. Guided by Zhao Qingqing, it didn't take long for Lu Chongqing to meet his children, Lu Yunlu and Lu Xingyue. The brother and sister were both dressed in Qingyun sect disciples' robes. One was graceful and elegant, the other handsome and upright. Seeing the siblings before him, he couldn't help but think of his other children far away in the Jinyang sect, Lu Qingshan and Lu Qingzhu. His children before him lived close by and had returned home once 2 years ago. Yet his children in that distant nation hadn't been seen for 9 years. Lu Qingshan and Lu Qingzhu were even a year older than Lu Xingyue, and he imagined they must have grown up too. How have you been in the sect these years? Lu Chongqing looked at his children before him and asked gently. Daddy, we've been good in the sect. I've broken through the 5th level of energy refinement, and not long ago, I was promoted to a middle-grade physician, Lu Xingyue said with a hint of happiness on her face, chattering about her own situation. Her brother Lu Yunlu also joined the conversation. But with a relatively subdued personality and few words, he was at the 5th level of energy refinement and a 3rd-grade artifact refiner. While chatting with his children, Lu Chongqing had thought about meeting Xia Zhaoyang, but upon learning that this good-for-nothing brother-in-law was out on a mission, he understood better. He was aware that the affairs of the Qingyun sect were roughly divided into external and internal duties. Like Zhao Qingqing and Han Lin, they were involved in internal duties and were not adept at fighting. Most of their time was spent cultivating within the sect, handling internal affairs, and producing for the sect. While people like Xiao Xie and Xia Zhaoyang, who focused on cultivation and had no skills, often chose to go on external missions, such as overseeing the marketplace or joining the enforcement hall, battle hall, and so on. After a brief visit with his children, Lu Chongqing announced that both had affairs to attend to and that, in the absence of their uncle, they could also seek out Zhao Qingqing often. Now that Zhao Qingqing had broken through to Foundation establishment and become the person in charge of the medicinal garden, she held not insignificant power and status, even higher than that of Xia Zhaoyang, an inner sect disciple. After visiting his children, Lu Chongqing didn't stay for long and left with Hong Yi aboard a spirit boat, returning to Bai Lake Mountain. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. During this time, Ling Zixiao had settled on a cultivation method, choosing the 12 Heavens demon spirit art. She chose this technique partly because she liked it, and also because it was a better fit for her than the vermilion bird sky-scorching art. After these months of cultivation, Bai Ling had finally refined his spiritual power to be smooth and perfect, ready for Foundation establishment. In just 16 short years, it's time for the Foundation establishment. Lu Chongqing thought of how he had picked up Bai Ling just 16 years ago, and now she was about to attempt foundation establishment. He couldn't help but marvel at the speed of her talent. None of his many children had yet broken through the 7th level energy refinement in terms of cultivation, which made him sigh. He could only hope that his 2 precious daughters and his son Lu Xingchen with a 3rd grade spiritual root would grow up to be more promising. As for Bai Ling's foundation establishment, he had made arrangements in advance, ensuring a foundation establishment elixir was ready. As for the breakthrough, it would take place within the Mount Sumera cave heaven. Not only was there a spiritual eye spring in the cave heaven, but Mount Sumera also provided abundant spiritual energy. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 792, Emperor's Flow Liquid. Bai Ling's breakthrough in foundation establishment. Therefore, one could directly undergo the foundation establishment in the Mount Sumera cave heaven without being noticed by others or any powers. In preparation for Bai Ling's breakthrough in foundation establishment, Lu Chongqing had specially asked Mount Sumera to gather spiritual energy in advance, bringing the spiritual energy of his closed-door cultivation chamber to the 2nd-tier top level, forming a thin mist visible to the naked eye. Little linger, are you ready? In the cultivation chamber, Lu Chongqing played with an ancient beast taming charm in his hand and looked at Bai Ling before him, speaking in a gentle voice. CTH Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The reason for holding the ancient beast taming charm was twofold. On one hand, to use Hong Lian to observe the mutations in Bai Ling's bloodline. On the other hand, it was to assist Bai Ling by using the Blackwater Dragon spirit weapon he had raised, helping her transform the nature's spiritual energy to ensure a risk-free breakthrough in foundation establishment. Brother, I am ready, Bai Ling said earnestly with her delicate and pure face. Having spent many years at Bai Lake Mountain, she understood what foundation establishment represented. She knew that once she broke through the foundation establishment, she might be able to help her brother. Then, under Lu Changsheng's watchful eye, she closed her distinct black and white, peach blossom-like eyes and silently operated the Black Dragon Codex. Not knowing how long had passed, when she realized her condition had reached the peak her brother had spoken of, she hesitated no longer and swallowed the premium foundation establishment elixir. It started. Lu Chongqing watched Bai Ling silently. The first of the 3 barriers to foundation establishment was the Qi and Blood barrier. Countless streams of nature's spiritual energy converged and surged against Bai Ling's physical body. Lu Chongqing had no worries about this barrier. On one hand, the Black Dragon Codex was for magical dual cultivation, and regular practice included tempering the physical body. On the other hand, it should be Bai Ling's bloodline that made her physical body much stronger than normal people, supple and tough, full of resilience. Unlike Lu Miaoyun and Chu Xinjin, who not only spent a lot of time with him but even needed to call for other concubines. But Bai Ling, though she appeared delicate and timid, could withstand. Indeed, under the onslaught of the nature's spiritual energy, Bai Ling showed no signs of distress, allowing it to wash over her. As time passed, the spiritual energy slowly entered her meridians and dantian, converging towards the Sea of Qi to start the magic barrier. Lu Chongqing was also very confident about the magic barrier. Although his family was capable of utilizing elixir medicines and the 2 often dual cultivated, Lu Chongqing had always kept a strict watch on their foundational strength. Moreover, the cultivation technique that Bai Ling practiced, the Black Dragon Codex, was a top-tier peripheral sect-level technique, offering a very solid foundation. However, to leave nothing to chance, Lu Chongqing still shouted towards the ancient beast taming charm, Hong Lian. Yes, young master, the voice of Hong Lian responded, light and graceful. In an instant, an aquatic aura spread out, filling the room. It was the presence of the Blackwater Dragon spirit weapon from the ancient beast taming charm. These Dao soldiers had been transformed into Blackwater Dragon spirit weapons by Lu Changsheng's Blackwater Dragon spell, and their insides were subtly practicing the Blackwater Dragon spell as well, their aura in line with the Black Dragon Codex. So, with the ancient beast taming charms exhaling and inhaling of spiritual energy, it was equivalent to helping Bai Ling refine the surrounding nature's spiritual energy. As time went by, Bai Ling began the third barrier of foundation establishment, the divine sense barrier. Little linger, Lu Chongqing called out softly. Bai Ling immediately opened her eyes, looked at Lu Chongqing before her, and then quickly swallowed the jade soul flower prepared beside her. Although Bai Ling might not need the jade soul flower, a foundation establishment spiritual object, since his family had the means, Lu Chongqing was still willing to play it safe. After swallowing the jade soul flower, Bai Ling hastily closed her eyes again and concentrated on breaking through, operating the cultivation technique. Boom! Not knowing how much time had passed, Bai Ling's mind thundered, her mental spirit transformed, and between her eyebrows seemed to open a third eye. Through this eye, even with her eyes closed, she could clearly see her surroundings, even her own seated form. Bai Ling did not get distracted. Following Lu Changsheng's teaching, she let her divine sense control her physical body and mana, oppressing the sea of qi in her dantian, turning the spiritual power into mana, thereby allowing the Dan lake to transform into the true lake, lifting the Dao platform, casting off the mortal body. The three barriers of foundation establishment have been passed. Lu Chongqing quietly observed this scene. With the completion of the three barriers of foundation establishment, the final step began. The surrounding nature's spiritual energy started to swirl wildly, forming a whirlpool of spiritual energy outside Chongqing Hole. The spiritual energy of the entire Mount Sumeru cave heaven was drawn to this place. The three barriers of foundation establishment have been passed. In the cave heaven, Ling Zixiao and Lu Miaoge felt the stir and knew that Bai Ling had started the final step of foundation establishment. At this moment, they were not cultivating and let Mount Sumeru gather all the spiritual energy in the cave heaven for Bai Ling, to assist her breakthrough. Inside the cultivation chamber, Lu Chongqing was bored as he watched Bai Ling push through her breakthrough. Just then, suddenly, a mysterious fluctuation accompanied by a system notification rang out. Ding! Congratulations to the host for the number of spiritual root offspring reaching 50, earning 1 targeted lottery chance. Lu Chongqing knew that a concubine at home had given birth to a spiritual root offspring. Through this fluctuation, he knew the child's spiritual root was ordinary, probably only a 7th grade spiritual root. This was normal, after all. Both parents possessed a spiritual root, which only relatively improved the child's spiritual root, and it wasn't possible for all of them to have middle grade or even higher quality spiritual roots. Just a targeted lottery. Lu Chongqing felt slightly disappointed seeing this lottery, as he had been looking forward to this milestone, hoping it would offer him an advanced level lottery or something of the sort. Targeted it is, then, but which category should I choose? Lu Chongqing exhaled lightly, pondering which to draw. In the early years when a targeted lottery appeared, he leaned towards cultivation techniques. But now, after having drawn quite a few rewards from the system's various categories, he wasn't sure which one to choose. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 793, Emperor's Flow Liquid, Bai Ling's Breakthrough in Foundation Establishment. Since that's the case, let's use the process of elimination. First rule out cultivation techniques and magical treasures, then skills, and there's no rush with pet beasts either. Lu Chongqing pondered silently in his heart. What he least lacked now was cultivation techniques. Although system cultivation techniques easily produced fine quality items, he really had no pressing need for them at the moment. Thanks to Xiahou Wuo's sponsorship, he also temporarily lacked nothing in the way of magical treasures. As for skills, he did want a formation or artifact refining skill to make himself all-round, but the randomness was too great. Regarding pet beasts, Su Ruyan had been obedient and worked diligently as a tool, being used by Hong Lian for alchemy, artifact refining, and helping with formations. Lu Chongqing also planned to get her a pet beast. But there was no hurry for such things, no need to waste his designated artifact draw for this alone. The randomness of elixir medicines is also too great, but treasures and other aspects seem not bad. After pondering for a moment, Lu Chongqing made his decision. Though these two types of draws were also full of randomness, anything produced by the system was guaranteed to be fine quality. Especially in the other category, items such as peach blossom goo, hope goo, golden armor bean mother, seed of law, endless guileful head seemed very good to him. Since that's the case, I'll choose others then. After making his decision, Lu Chongqing silently commanded, "System, initiate the draw, specify other category." In an instant, the drawing interface appeared before his eyes. From the initial rotation of golden radiance between 7 areas, it transformed into a dazzling array of natural treasures. There were natural treasures, as well as alcohol, spiritual liquid, goo insects, corpse refining, puppets, and all sorts of chaos, along with a bunch of things that Lu Chongqing couldn't recognize. One could only say that the other category encompassed far too many things. A moment later, the draw will stopped. Streams of golden, viscous liquid appeared, with the system prompt chiming in. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Emperor's Nectar. Emperor's Nectar, what is this? Lu Chongqing raised an eyebrow at the prize he had drawn. Immediately, information about Emperor's Nectar appeared in the system space. Emperor's Nectar, rank, 3rd rank, description, the essence of the moon's energy from heaven and earth, which can bestow spirituality to flowers, plants, and trees, transforming them into demon plants. It is greatly nourishing for demons, devils, specters, and can enhance cultivation level and increase spirituality. Lu Chongqing's eyes revealed a trace of joy upon seeing this reward. Although this Emperor's Nectar mainly had beneficial effects for demons and specters, his very own protective divine tree was, in fact, a demon plant. Moreover, aside from the Mount Sumra Tree King, he also had the luminous treasure tree, abyssal ghoul blossom, 1 spirit plant and 1 demon plant. Mount Sumra would need to consume its origin source vitality to nurture a companion spirit plant. With this Emperor's Nectar, might it compensate for its consumption, thus nurturing a companion spirit plant? Lu Chongqing's thoughts paused, speculating in his mind. He had not yet refined the abyssal ghoul blossom for Lu Miaohuan. On one hand, he was planning to wait a bit longer for Ling Zixiao to recover, then take Lu Miaohuan on a long trip to visit the Jinyang sect. On the other hand, he was considering the possibility of drawing another spirit plant, so both Lu Miaohuan and Chu Zhenjin could choose and cultivate one, showing himself to be an impartial husband. After all, for the first delicate wife he had lured back home, Lu Chongqing still had considerable affection. He did not immediately extract the item, continuing to observe Bai Ling, who was going through a foundation establishment breakthrough. He decided to wait until Bai Ling had completed her foundation establishment before exploring the Emperor's Nectar. Time slipped by, and after an undefined period, a surge of foundation establishment mana radiated from Bai Ling's Qi Ocean core and her Dantian. Foundation establishment was successful, Lu Chongqing noted with a lifted spirit. SAR the Oval Fire. Ed website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Young Master. At this moment, Hong Lian communicated to Lu Chongqing via transmission. Right away, Lu Chongqing approached Bai Ling, placing his hand on the position of her lower abdomen to examine her current condition. Hong Lian also projected her spirit force to check on Bai Ling's status. As a 3rd-rank beast tamer and nascent soul true lord, she had only previously confirmed that Bai Ling's blood was a variation of the demon race. But she couldn't be sure of the specifics. Bai Ling felt somewhat shy as she saw her brother take care so immediately after her breakthrough. At this moment inside her dantian, the Tao foundation of the black dragon rose, bursting with endless glimmers, as if a black dragon was roaring, providing her with marrow cleansing, scouring every inch of her blood and flesh, every inch of her body. Both Lu Changxing and Hong Lian looked at Bai Ling's inner condition with a look of surprise and doubt. For, as the black dragon Tao foundation shed her mortal body, Bai Ling's blood, veins, and bones all displayed a pearly white luster, matching the color of her bodice scales. This pearly white luster combined with her mana, allowing Lu Changxing to discern the operational routes of the Black Dragon Codex, which, like Lu Maiage's Water of Virtue technique, showed certain inexplicable changes. Not only that, Lu Changxing noticed that Bai Ling's clear and smooth scales had taken on an additional and sudden quality of white gold at this very moment. Her white and delicate skin became even more flawless, fully on par with Lu Maiage's complexion. Hong Lian, what's happening here? Lu Changxing inquired of Hong Lian. The more he interacted with her, the more he realized that the little girl he had brought home was not simple. Young master. Bai Ling's condition is certainly due to awakening her demon race bloodline. The bloodline is reverting, it can't be wrong, but this bloodline is quite extraordinary, and I even suspect it's the bloodline of some sort of true spirit, Hong Lian said softly. True spirit bloodline. Lu Changxing was astonished to hear this. He was well aware that any demon beast with even a trace of a true spirit bloodline was extraordinary, essentially a heaven-ranked demon beast. And Bai Ling, being of the human race, having a true spirit bloodline was utterly astonishing, wasn't it? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 794, Emperor's Flow Liquid, Bai Ling's Breakthrough in Foundation Establishment _4". That's right, before I met the young master, I had never seen a true spirit-level demon beast. But in the world, one can still find some demon beasts with a diluted true spirit bloodline, or even members of the human race. I once heard that in the central continent, there are several major families with the true spirit bloodline flowing through their veins, known as true spirit families. Bai Ling might have a diluted true spirit bloodline in her body, but due to a mutation in the bloodline, she reverted to an ancestral form, thereby awakening some of the power of the bloodline. Hong Lian voiced her guess. True spirit families. Lu Changxing was somewhat surprised when he heard this. He could understand that some demon beasts possess a bit of the true spirit bloodline, but how could humans also have the true spirit bloodline running through their veins? He knew that the more powerful the demon beast and the higher the grade of its bloodline, the harder it was to transform. For a true spirit to transform, it would be extremely difficult. Moreover, it was already difficult for humans and the demon race to conceive offspring, let alone conceive without transformation. The mere thought of it was unimaginable. Are these true spirit families the descendants of humans and true spirits? Lu Changxing curiously asked. I'm not sure about that, I've only heard of the existence of such true spirit families. Hong Lian said softly. Alright, as long as it's not a bad thing, it doesn't matter. Search *the novel _fire. Ed website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing didn't pay too much attention to the issue of the true spirit bloodline. His examination with Hong Lian was also based on her previous statement that in Bai Ling's case, every time she made a breakthrough in a major realm, some of her bloodline's power would awaken, resulting in certain changes. It might be possible to discover something. After Bai Ling completed her transformation, Lu Changxing noticed that her blood had taken on a bit more of a platinum luster. He couldn't help but think that if the power of her bloodline continued to awaken, Bai Ling's blood, meridians, and bones might completely turn white. Brother, Bai Ling looked at Lu Changxing with her clear, peach-shaped eyes that were misty, shy, joyful, and expectant, and her voice was sweet and meltingly soft. Logically, after cultivating the Black Dragon Codex and breaking through to Foundation establishment, her transformation should convey a sense of majesty. But Bai Ling became even more innocently charming. She seemed ethereal and not of this world, yet every smile and gesture revealed seductive allure, enchanting and captivating, stirring one's mental spirit. Lu Chongqing knew that Bai Ling's bloodline power was more powerful than the changes brought about by the cultivation technique. Even the cultivation technique adapted its flow to accommodate the power of her bloodline. Seeing her pure yet desirous face eagerly looking forward to his praise and reward, Lu Chongqing enveloped her moist and tender lips without hesitation. His palm caressed her crystal clear and silky smooth skin that seemed flawless and as if it might burst with the gentlest touch. Although Bai Ling's scales had taken on more of a platinum color, the texture did not change. In fact, they felt even silkier and smoother to the touch. Along with the rustling sound, a graceful figure with a perfect shape emerged, wrapped in what seemed like a platinum scale armor. Her body was filled with demonic charm and primal instinct, inexplicably heating one's blood. Lu Chongqing paid no mind to the existence of Hong Lian and the ancient beast-taming charm. Initially, when he made his move on Su Ruyan, he would have Ling Zixiao or Lu Miaoyun take the ancient beast-taming charm and leave. But later he gave it some thought and decided Hong Lian was not an outsider. Since she was there, why not? Doing all sorts of things to her chosen destined girl in front of Grandpa seemed to have its own unique flavor. Lu Chongqing embraced Bai Ling's incredibly seductive waist. Only one who had experienced it could know how supple, slender, and tight it was, and how breathtaking it could be. Accompanied by a heart-stirring, soft moan, the flawless body undulated, and the platinum scales began to suffuse with a hint of pink, appearing dreamlike and illusory. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 795, The Tao Companion Ceremony, Heading to Jinyang's Sect. _1 Bai Ling's breakthrough to Foundation establishment did not have a significant impact on Bai Lake Mountain. Or to put it another way, only Lu Chongqing, Ling Zixiao, Lu Miaoge, Lu Miaoyun, and a few others were aware of this development. Few knew that this girl, who usually seemed timid and preoccupied with her cultivation, lacking a sense of presence, had now become a foundation-building great cultivator. Search * the novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. After Bai Ling's breakthrough, Lu Chongqing assigned her the task of nurturing the Blackwater Dragon spirit weapon. She was to find Hong Lian every 10 to 15 days and use the mana of the Black Dragon to nurture the Tao soldier. Inside the cave dwelling of Chongqing Hall, extract. Lu Chongqing looked at the imperial syrup in the system space, and his mental spirit stirred slightly. Instantly, a basin-sized stone trough appeared. It contained a viscous liquid with a golden sheen. This liquid looked as if it had life, sometimes shining brilliantly like flowing light and at times moving quietly like a stream, emanating a rich scent of vitality. So this is the imperial syrup. Lu Chongqing examined the imperial syrup in the stone trough. Through the system, he knew that this substance was formed gradually when the essence of the moonlight during the Gingshan night converged with the milky fluid from Millennium Clock stones. The basin of imperial syrup before him was incredibly rare, requiring at least hundreds of years to form. Speaking of which, I wonder if this imperial syrup has any effect on Zixiao's dragon roar physique, Lu Chongqing murmured to himself, thinking of Ling Zixiao's condition. Ling Zixiao's dragon roar physique was currently quite stable. But as she began cultivation, the issue was bound to re-emerge. Though it was possible to suppress it by plundering the origin source with the dragon invocation technique. From his previous hands-on experience, he knew the plundering was extraordinarily dangerous due to the potential backlash from the dragon roar origin. It had to be suppressed by some cold object, much like Nangong Meili's profound Yin Jade liquid from before. It's best to store some as a precaution. After pondering for a moment, Lu Chongqing took out a purple jade gourd and filled it with nearly half of the imperial syrup. Through the system, he knew humans could consume the imperial syrup to aid in mana recovery and cultivation level enhancement. However, the effects were not as substantial as the improvement it offered to demons, ghosts, and other malign beings. Since Shiyu has a moonlight spirit body, maybe this imperial syrup has some benefits for her too. Lu Chongqing thought of Xiao Xie's condition, contemplating to himself. By this count, the amount of imperial syrup he had might not be enough to share. Sigh. He exhaled and called out, Mount Sumeru. Master. The ethereal voice of Mount Sumeru echoed. Although Lu Chongqing was in the confined space of his cave dwelling, as long as he was in the Mount Sumeru cave heaven, Mount Sumeru could be everywhere. As soon as Lu Chongqing called out, it could immediately sense and respond. This imperial syrup should be helpful to you, take it. If this amount of imperial syrup is enough for you to nurture an accompanying spirit plant, then try to cultivate a third rank one, Lu Chongqing directed Mount Sumeru. No matter what, he thought to maximize the effects and use it to improve Mount Sumeru. Thank you, Master. Mount Sumeru's voice was soft and pure in its gratitude, lacking any emotion of coquetry. This imperial syrup, mainly used to enhance spirituality for demon beasts and plants, I wonder if it can help Mount Sumeru make a notable improvement in its spirituality, Lu Chongqing suddenly thought. As a true spirit-level demon plant, Mount Sumeru's spirituality was exceptionally high. But compared to humans, it still lacked emotion. He then saw a ray of golden light showering down, illuminating the imperial syrup, which Mount Sumeru began to absorb slowly. After finishing the task, he didn't continue his seclusion but went out to spend time with his wives and children. Now that Ling Zixio's injuries had largely healed and Bai Ling, a new combatant, had joined the family, he planned to visit the Jinyang sect in Yu country with Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan after some time to see his children who lived far away in that nation. In Yu country, at the Jinyang sect. The Jinyang sect was currently hosting a sword trial festival, and it was bustling beneath the main peak. Many outer sect and inner sect disciples were participating or waiting, and countless disciples who weren't competing also gathered to spectate. Even if they weren't competing, joining the excitement and witnessing other cultivators' battles could broaden their horizons and yield gains. Hoo hoo hoo, ping ping ping, chong chong chong, on 3 spell formation arenas, each dozens of feet wide, disciples were engaged in combat. Above each arena, executors and elders sat high up, ready to intervene in case participants couldn't hold back and accidentally caused a fatality during the fray. After all, such festivals were designed to temper disciples, and naturally, they didn't wish to see casualties. Su Rong is too hesitant and indecisive, and she's going to lose, Lu Qingshan and his sister Lu Qingzhu, seated at the competitors' area of Tianyuan Peak, commented as they watched the central arena. Ha! Lu Qingzhu perked up upon hearing her brother's words, watched the central arena intently, and tilted her head, unsure of how he had reached his conclusion. However, shortly thereafter, a female cultivator of modest beauty dressed in Jinyang sect robes flew backward and crashed against the arena's spell formation barrier following her opponent's offensive. How about that, little Zhu, was I not right? Lu Qingshan wore a slightly smug expression. Brother is amazing. Lu Qingzhu looked surprised before vigorously nodding her head, eliciting hearty laughter from Lu Qingshan. Tianji Peak's Xiao Guang wins. At that moment, the high-up executor in charge of supervising the competition announced the result. The youth known as Xiao Guang bowed to the air above before stepping down from the arena. The fallen female cultivator was taken to receive medical attention as per the arrangement by the medics at the side of the stage. Jinyun Peak's Yin Yan, Tianyuan Peak's Lu Qingshan. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please please let us know his report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 796, The Tao Companion Ceremony, Heading to Jinyang Sect. The presiding executor held the jade scroll, announcing without any expression on his face. Little Bamboo, watch your brother perform. Upon hearing this, Lu Qingshan stood up and walked towards the arena. Brother, be careful. Lu Qingzhu said with concern, making a cheering gesture. Ha ha ha, don't worry. Lu Qingshan, with a carefree expression, playfully tousled his little sister's hair, messing up her smooth locks. Though the siblings were only half a month apart in age, Lu Qingshan seemed much older. That's Lu Qingshan, Tian Yuan Elder's personal disciple. I've heard that Brother Lu has a Gingjin body constitution, but I don't know whether it's true or not. What a pity that he's only at the 6th level energy refinement, while Yin Yen is at the 8th level energy refinement, and comes from the renowned Yin family. He probably has a lot of fine magic artifacts, even talismans on him. For Lu Qingshan to have fought his way to this round at 6th level energy refinement shows his strength should not be underestimated. As a disciple of Elder Tian Yuan, Lu Qingshan mustn't lack in those either. I once heard that Jinyun Peak and Tian Yuan Peak don't get along well. I wonder if Yin Yen will strike with full force. Many onlookers turned their gazes toward Lu Qingshan and Yin Yen, who had stepped into the ring, chattering among themselves. At this point in the sword trial tournament, the preliminaries had passed and anyone who had made it this far possessed certain skills. Moreover, as one of only 2 disciples from Tian Yuan Peak in the Jinyang sect, Lu Qingshan had a bit of a reputation. As soon as he appeared, he caused a stir among the cultivators present. So you're Lu Qingshan, I've heard that when you were at 4th level energy refinement, you had the audacity to draw your sword against our peak's disciples? Quite brave indeed. To show my respect, I'll take you seriously and hope you won't disappoint me. Yin Yen, dressed in the uniform of the Jinyang sect disciples, was tall and imposing, holding a jade-quality sword in his hand. The sword gleamed with an ever-changing light, at times dazzling, at times revealing its sharpness. Lu Qingshan responded indifferently with a light hum. The battle commenced only after the presiding executor overhead declared the beginning of the match. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Yin Yen formed a hand seal, causing a windless fog to rise on the platform, shrouding him in a thick mist. His flying sword disappeared into the mist and, accompanied by the rolling fog, attacked Lu Qingshan. Clang! A golden, dazzling magical sword appeared in Lu Qingshan's hand. He unleashed a sword chi that blocked the jade-quality flying sword coming at him through the air. Clang clang clang, the mist churned, and the flying sword emitted invisible sword chi that assailed Lu Qingshan, who kept parrying with his magical sword. Ha! Just then, Lu Qingshan let out a long howl, employing both the lion's roar skill and the sonic waves of spiritual power from his martial practices, sweeping out in a burst that shook Yin Yen. Sizzle sizzle. In an instant, Lu Qingshan's movement stirred up a breeze underfoot. Like a sharp blade of light, he tore through the air currents, closed in on Yin Yen, and unleashed a fiercely charged sword chi. Not good. Facing Lu Qingshan's onslaught, Yin Yen was startled and hurriedly maneuvered his flying sword to defend, activating his body-protecting chi barrier. He quickly pulled a talisman from inside his robe and activated it. In an instant, a golden light barrier formed around him. A superior grade talisman, the Golden Light Barrier Talisman. That's really bullying. He's already higher in cultivation and now he's using a superior grade talisman. It's nice to have money. If my family were rich enough to give me a few talismans, I wouldn't have been eliminated in the preliminaries. But Lu Qingshan's recent move, it seems like he also practices body refinement. No, it's not body refinement. Given his moves and sword techniques, they bear traces of mundane martial arts. I reckon he has trained in secular martial practices. Many of the surrounding disciples who witnessed the scene began discussing aloud. Go. Having secured his position with the Golden Light Barrier Talisman, Yin Yan manipulated hand seals and continued to send his magical sword at Lu Qingshan. Golden Light Barrier Talisman, as if a Golden Light Bodyguard charm would be more appropriate for you. Lu Qingshan sneered, his magical sword parried the incoming magical sword. Then he howled, "Break for me." In that moment, the spiritual power in his body roared to life, spreading out as he broke through from 6th level energy refinement to 7th level energy refinement. His golden magical sword shone brilliantly, its edge keen and fierce, tearing open the golden light barrier in front of him. This. Yin Yan was shocked and immediately pulled out 2 more talismans from his chest, intending to activate them. But in that instant, the golden light barrier and body-protecting chi barrier around him shattered. A golden magical sword was placed at his throat, sending a chill down his spine as if pain was about to ensue. He said incredulously, "How is this possible? How could you break through the golden bell shield talisman and the body-protecting chi barriers so quickly?" "Because I've made a breakthrough, the energy refinement late stage also has its differences. Don't use your own strength to measure mine, and remember to use a golden light bodyguard charm next time." Lu Qingshan's expression was indifferent as he spoke calmly. Tian Yuan Peak, Lu Qingshan, wins. The expressionless executor in the air showed a hint of surprise, nodding slightly before announcing the result. SSS, a breakthrough in the heat of battle. And from middle stage to energy refinement late stage at that. 6th level defeated 8th level. He must have been on the verge of a breakthrough for a while but chose not to. Now, utilizing his full strength naturally led to overcoming the bottleneck. This is very risky. If he hadn't been able to break through Yin Yan's defenses just now and had been defeated and injured, it might have affected his meridians. I've heard that he has a Gingjin body constitution and practices sword techniques, following the path of sword cultivators. This must be the confidence of a sword cultivator, refining his blade through battle after battle, hence revealing the sword hard edge. TSK, Brother Lu really is bold. S.E.A. the novel, F. Higher. In website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Many in the audience voiced their comments upon seeing this battle, and many would remember the name Lu Qingshan. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 797, The Tao Companion Ceremony, heading to Jinyang's sect. Xiao Zhuer, how did brother perform? Lu Qingshan stepped down from the arena, saying with a chuckle. Brother is so amazing, he actually broke through to the 7th level energy refinement, and right on the arena during the battle. Lu Qingzhu said with a face full of happy admiration. Although she started cultivating a bit later than Lu Qingshan due to the issue with her foundation, she was still at the 5th level energy refinement and needed quite some time to break through to the 6th level. Seeing her brother break through to the energy refinement late stage, she felt even happier than if she had made the breakthrough herself. Sir the Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Hehe, as an unparalleled genius, it's quite normal to break through during combat. Lu Qingshan said with a proud look on his face. Then, looking at the arena's prizes, he said somewhat regretfully, it's a pity that I'm only at the 7th level energy refinement. It might be a bit difficult to take first place. This martial arts tournament was for Chi refinement disciples to compete, but even though he was confident in fighting above his level, he was not certain against some at the peak of energy refinement. Brother is already very powerful, at the next sword trial tournament, brother will surely take first place. Lu Qingzhu said earnestly. In her heart, her brother was a genius, extremely formidable. Hee, this time brother will win a Foundation Establishment spirit object for you, and next time I'll win a Foundation Establishment elixir. When we both break through to Foundation Establishment and go home, Dad, Mom, and Grandpa will be totally surprised. Lu Qingshan said with a grinning face. Only when facing his sister, the Crane Fairy of Tianyuan Peak, did he show such a playful and joyful demeanor. Lu Qingzhu nodded in agreement, unable to help but miss her parents, auntie, and grandfather at home. However, looking at her brother before her, she suppressed her longing and said softly, "Brother, you just had a breakthrough. You should go back and consolidate your cultivation realm." Atop Baiyun Peak. Tall and handsome, a majestic ancient tree glistens with gold and jade, brimming with vigorous vitality. Mount Sumeru, is this sufficient? Lu Chongqing planted a shoot resembling gold and jade, swirling with vibrant green vitality, next to the Mount Sumeru tree king and asked aloud. With the Emperor's fluid, Mount Sumeru's strength could achieve a small increase without expending a large amount of life's origin source. It could also nurture a companion spirit plant without excessive consumption of its life force. It's enough, Master, the pure, soft voice of Mount Sumeru responded. It indicated that as long as it nurtured the shoot patiently, in a few years, it would become its companion spirit plant and ascend to a third-rank heavenly and earthly spirit plant. However, this companion spirit plant's abilities were limited. It only had the effect of cleansing the mind, focusing the spirit, and suppressing the heart demon. Alright, a third-rank heavenly and earthly spirit plant is enough, its power doesn't really matter. Lu Chongqing said upon hearing this. His main goal now was to acquire a heavenly and earthly spirit plant for his wife to cultivate the heavenly longevity technique. As for the abilities of this spirit plant, they seemed secondary to him. Moreover, the abilities of this companion spirit plant mainly stem from the Mount Sumeru tree king. As long as Mount Sumeru is willing to continue nurturing it with its origin source, the future is promising. Just then, Lu Chongqing suddenly sensed a surge of mana and cultivation level entering his body out of nowhere. He knew that one of his children had made a breakthrough. Even though this cultivation level was still somewhat weak for him, it was stronger than all the previous ones he had experienced. One of the children has broken through to the 7th level energy refinement, but which one? Chuanjin wouldn't be so quick. Pingon just broke through to the 6th level, Lu Yun is still at the 5th level energy refinement. Lu Chongqing pondered in his heart. He then opened the system panel to check the current status of his older children. After a moment, he knew which child had made the breakthrough. Name, Lu Qingshan, lifespan, 20/99, talent, 6th grade spiritual root, Gingjin body constitution, middle grade spiritual body, cultivation, 7th level energy refinement, ability, sword Dao compatibility, 52%, as expected, it's Qingshan, that's right, with his Gingjin body constitution, cultivating metal attribute cultivation techniques. His cultivation speed is not inferior to those with high-grade spiritual roots. Now that he's broken through to the 7th level energy refinement, it's quite normal. Lu Chongqing murmured to himself. Although this speed was somewhat slower than Bai Ling's. But among his current children, he's probably far ahead. It's time to prepare for a trip to Jinyang sect in Yu country. Lu Chongqing took a deep breath and exhaled softly. He immediately found Ling Zixiao, Lu Miaoyun, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan to talk about going to Jinyang sect in Yu country. My lord, rest assured and go, the mistress and Miaoyun will look after the home, Ling Zixiao said upon hearing this. Lu Chongqing nodded, feeling very reassured with the two women at home. Then he said to Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan, I will first write a letter to Shiyu, to inquire how long before the Qingyun sect spiritual vessel heads to Azure Phoenix Immortal City. The journey from Bai Lake Mountain to Jinyang sect in Yu country was quite distant. Hence, Lu Chongqing planned to take the Qingyun sect spiritual vessel to Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Then from Azure Phoenix Immortal City, he would take the Jinyang sect spiritual vessel to Yu country Jinyang sect. Lu Miaohuan, upon hearing that they were finally going to visit their children in Jinyang sect, showed an excited and joyful expression on her face. Lu Miaohu's eyes also revealed a look of longing, eager to travel to Jinyang sect and see their children. With the upcoming trip to Jinyang sect to visit their children, Lu Miaohuan was very happy. She pulled her sister along to ask Lu Chongqing for a boat ride on the lake. The three of them didn't use paddles, but let the boat drift on its own. At this moment, a sudden storm with fierce winds and torrential rains descended upon by Lake Mountain. Facing the unexpected storm and the lake's surface whipped into waves, the exquisitely decorated boat drifting of its own accord remained unaffected, steadily sailing through the tempest. So much time might have passed before the storm and the furious waves subsided. The sunlight pierced the clouds. The air after the rain was extraordinarily fresh. The scenery around the lake was exceptionally beautiful. A delicate jade hand lifted the curtain on the boat's door. If you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 798, The Tao Companion Ceremony, Heading to Jinyang Sect. _4 Bright and gentle sunlight streamed into the cramped room, the breeze was gentle, and the water rippled. So much water, Lu Chongqing, observing the bunk bed drenched by an unknown source, either rain or lake water, waved his mana and dried it out. Afterward, he held his delicate wife in his arms and admired the beautiful scenery outside, feeling refreshed and uplifted. Through this lake tour, he could sense his wife's joy at the prospect of visiting their children at Jinyang sect. My husband, how do you think Qing Shan is doing with his cultivation at Jinyang sect? Do you think he might? Lu Miaohuan, draped in a thin black gauze garment, her beautiful black hair cascading down her back like satin, gazed out at the lake scenery. Even though she knew her son had a nascent soul immortal as his master, she remained worried about him being mistreated or bullied during his cultivation journey, given his mischievous and troublemaking character and the fact that she hadn't seen him. Rest assured, Qing Shan not only possesses a Gingjin body constitution, but he also has a nascent soul immortal as a master. His cultivation in Jinyang sect naturally goes smoothly, Lu Chongqing reassured her with a warm voice, his arms around her slender waist. He, too, was eager to know how his children had fared at Jinyang sect over the years. Qing Shan and Qing Zhu would be quite surprised to learn that both their father and sister have broken through to foundation establishment, Lu Miaohuan mused with a smile. Who could have predicted the earth-shaking changes in their family in just a mere 10 years? 10 days later, Zhao Qingqing came to buy Lake Mountain. She told Lu Chongqing that the spiritual vessel heading from Qingyun Market to the Azure Phoenix Immortal City would leave in 4 months. The journey would take approximately 3 months, and if Lu Chongqing wished, she could purchase the vessel tickets on his behalf. Given Lu Changsheng's status as the mountain master of Bai Lake Mountain, he could certainly buy the vessel tickets himself. But it would require him to make the trip and book in advance at Qingyun Market. Qingqing, thank you for the trouble, Lu Chongqing said as he nodded. With Xiao Xie still out on a mission and not yet back, having Zhao Qingqing buy the spiritual vessel tickets would be much more convenient. He then discussed the matter of the cultivator couple ritual with Zhao Qingqing. Though it wasn't ideal to draw attention now, he and Zhao Qingqing had become fellow cultivators, and he naturally wished to give their relationship a proper standing. Moreover, since he was about to head to Jinyang sect in Yu country, which would take at least 2 to 3 years for the round trip, having Zhao Qingqing, a foundation-building great cultivator and disciple of an immortal sect, join the family would serve as a deterrent to surrounding clan powers. Sure, Zhao Qingqing cheerfully agreed. Being quite traditional, she had been hoping for a formal status that morning. But facing Lu Chongqing, she felt somewhat inferior, believing she wasn't worthy of such a man and could only be a concubine, unsure of how to raise the matter. Now that Lu Chongqing had taken the initiative to propose a cultivator couple ritual with her, she was naturally overjoyed. Immediately, Lu Chongqing asked his wife Lu Miaoyun to arrange a cultivator couple ritual. Upon learning that Zhao Qingqing and her husband were to be joined as a cultivator couple, Lu Miaoyun was merely slightly taken aback, but not surprised. After all, as a wife who had accompanied Lu Chongqing on his path, she had anticipated this day would come once Zhao Qingqing became a guest elder in their home. Considering they were to board the spiritual vessel for the Azure Phoenix Immortal City in 4 months, Lu Chongqing set the date for the ritual 3 months later so it wouldn't be too rushed or simplistic. After assigning these tasks, Lu Chongqing spent the following days diligently cultivating. This included Su Ruyan, who in the early years was used by Hong Lian for her Buddhist alchemy purposes, formations, and other matters, so Lu Chongqing had refrained from having her conceive. Mainly because once she had a child and became a mother, Lu Chongqing felt he would become soft-hearted. Over the years, Su Ruyan had performed well, and Lu Chongqing felt it was time. If she continued to be obedient and well-behaved upon his return, he would give her a heaven-ranked demon beast, and that would be it, with her bearing 5, 6, 7, or 8 children. After all, Su Ruyan had long reached the peak of qi refinement and was ready to undertake foundation establishment. But her cultivation had virtually been stalled for years due to being imprisoned at by Lake Mountain. Although it was relatively difficult for foundation establishment cultivators to have children, with the system's bloodline enhancement, it wasn't too difficult for Lu Chongqing. In this way, with Lu Chongqing's efforts, in just a short month, 3 of his concubines were pregnant, including Su Ruyan. Seeing Su Ruyan pregnant, an idea popped into Lu Chongqing's head. What if during his efforts, Hong Lian possessed Su Ruyan? Or, if Hong Lian possessed Su Ruyan during her pregnancy to help nourish the fetus, would the child be considered Hong Lian's? In that case, would the child's talent be comparatively better? However, Lu Chongqing just thought about it and didn't bring it up. During this time, Lu Chongqing also didn't neglect Bai Ling. Although it was extremely difficult for her to get pregnant because of bloodline issues, Lu Chongqing believed in the saying, "Heaven rewards the diligent, man will conquer nature, and where there's a will there's a way." Sar the novel, F. Higher. Ed website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed, and Lu Chongqing and Zhao Qingqing's couple ceremony was held as scheduled. During these 3 months, 5 of Lu Chongqing's minor wives, including Su Ruyan, became pregnant. As for Bai Ling, one could only say that she tried hard, but it was indeed very difficult. However, Lu Chongqing did not lose a trace of fighting spirit, planning to try again when the time was right, determined to eventually make Bai Ling pregnant. On this day, Bai Lake Mountain was very lively and festive. The Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain, the Bai family of Hundred Birds Lake, the Jing family of Wugong Ridge, the Yushui Su family, the Ji family of Shaojing Mountain, and other family powers all sent people to congratulate and give gifts. After all, the union of 2 foundation establishment cultivators was not a minor matter to these neighboring family powers, and it deserved high attention. Hong Yi and Han Lin also came to attend the celebration. Besides them, some Qingyun sect disciples, Zhao Qingqing's friends, and fellow sect members were present. I heard that Lu ancestor hadn't taken any concubines for a long time. I did not expect that once he did, it would be such an astonishing event, marrying a foundation establishment great cultivator from the Qingyun sect. A friend of mine's grandson's niece became a concubine to Lu ancestor. I heard that Lu ancestor has also been diligently working these years, having children born every year in his family. For Lu Mountain Lord, I really admire him completely, to have 3 foundation establishment partners in his household. And all 3 are not ordinary. One is a 2nd-grade talisman master, one is a 2nd-grade array master, and one is a disciple of the immortal sects. Compared to Lu Mountain Lord's talisman path, I admire his inclinations towards men and women even more. Ah, truly, comparing oneself to others will only make you die of envy. Many of those who came to attend the ceremony expressed their feelings out loud for Lu Chongqing, their expressions a mix of envy and jealousy. For them, even after breaking through to foundation building and becoming a foundation establishment great cultivator, marrying a foundation establishment partner was very hard. Not to mention someone like Lu Chongqing, who had 3 high-quality foundation establishment partners. After all, upon becoming a foundation establishment cultivator, one is an ancestor of a region, who would willingly share. Lu brother is indeed worthy. Hong Yi and Han Lin were seated at the same table and were full of emotions upon witnessing this scene. Even though Hong Yi had previously made some guesses, seeing this scene, the two holding the ceremony and becoming partners, they were still filled with emotions. They thought that if this was the situation with Zhao Qingqing's couple ceremony, what if Lu Chongqing and Xiao Xie from the Qingyun sect, the famous Shiyu fairy, were to become partners? Would it not cause a small sensation throughout the entire Qingyun region? However, for Brother Lu to become partners with Xiao Daoist, I'm afraid he has to pass the hurdle of her master, Kaiyun True Immortal. Hong Yi pondered silently. Zhao Qingqing was just an ordinary disciple of the Qingyun sect, and there would be no constraints in this respect. But with core disciples and true inheritors like Xiao Xie, the sect valued them highly, and there would be certain constraints on behavior, such as in choosing a partner. So, this is Lu ancestor, indeed as the rumors described, handsome as an immortal. I heard that Lu ancestor is not only the lord of a mountain, a second-tier top-level talisman master, but also so handsome. I really want to marry him. Yes, even if I were to be a servant or a maid, would be willing, to become a maid of Lu ancestor. One must at least have a middle-grade spiritual root, if only I had been born 10 or 20 years earlier. I heard that in the early years when Lu ancestor was at Qingzhou Mountain, he often took concubines from outside. One look at Lu Mountain Lord ruins a lifetime. During the ceremony, many young girls who came with their elders to attend the ceremony and with certain motives, upon seeing Lu Changsheng's handsome and elegant demeanor, felt their hearts fluttering and lost. After all, a great cultivator who had wealth, looks, and power, who wouldn't love such a person? But for these young ladies, Lu Chongqing mostly didn't even take notice anymore. The ceremony lasted for 3 days. After the ceremony ended, Lu Chongqing accompanied Zhao Qingqing for another 3 days. Then, he took Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan and left by Lake Mountain, heading to Qingyun Market, preparing to take a spiritual vessel to visit his children at the Jinyang sect in Yu country. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 799, The Heavenly Demon Phoenix arrives at the Azure Phoenix Immortal City. _1 month later. Qingyun Market. That morning, Lu Chongqing, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan finished checking out of their lodgings and arrived at the northern gate of the market, waiting for the arrival of the spiritual vessel. It was the same location where Lu Chongqing had boarded a spiritual vessel before. Many cultivators had come early to wait, and several Qingyun sect law enforcement cultivators were maintaining order. They didn't have to wait too long. A blue spiritual vessel, over 30 feet tall and 50 to 60 feet long, slowly descended from the high clouds, shrouded in the luminescence of a formation. This spiritual vessel looked the same as the one Lu Chongqing had previously taken to Zhuxiao Immortal City. Presumably, they were all built by the Qingyun sect, specifically for long-distance transportation. So this is a spiritual vessel. Lu Miaohuan and Lu Miaoge were both looking at the vessel with expressions of surprise and curiosity. They had only ever heard about such large spiritual vessels and had never seen or ridden on one before. Yes, this is a large spiritual vessel. Its defenses are astonishing, and the cannons on board can unleash attacks comparable to those of core formation, Lu Chongqing said softly. When he had boarded the vessel before, he happened to meet Xiahou Wuwa and witnessed the power of the ship firsthand. He knew that both defense and offense had reached the 3rd rank, a level that ordinary nascent soul cultivators would not dare confront. This made him very keen to get his hands on such a spiritual vessel. If a war were to break out between the two clans in the future, having such a vessel in the sky would be incredibly imposing. Soon, the spiritual vessel hovered in midair. Two Foundation establishment cultivators came out and announced loudly, "Everyone with a pass token, please queue up and board the spiritual vessel in an orderly fashion. Those who disturb the order will be disqualified from boarding." As their voices fell, a rainbow light fell from the vessel, transforming into successive steps. The law enforcement cultivators from the Qingyun sect kept order, directing everyone to board the ship in an orderly queue. This time, Lu Changsheng's ticket for the spiritual vessel was still for the second-tier category, a standard cabin. However, compared to the single room he had before, it was slightly larger, belonging to a multi-occupancy area, with about 30 square meters. Although it was a bit cramped for 3 people, they had no other choice given the limited options. After all, he had also stayed in a luxurious superior room before, which mainly had an additional supply of spiritual energy but wasn't much larger than a standard cabin. "I wonder how Qing Shan and Qing Zhu will react when they see us," Lu Miaohuan said with a joyful expression, looking out at the sea of clouds from the window. Such scenery was naturally nothing special to her. But since it was her first time riding a spiritual vessel, she felt a novelty similar to what Lu Chongqing had experienced before. They will certainly be very surprised," Lu Chongqing replied, seeing his wife so happy put him in a good mood too. Ever since they started preparing to go to Jinyang sect, Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan had been in very high spirits these past days. But it was Lu Miaohuan who wore her emotions on her sleeve, her moods clearly reflected on her face. He took out teaware, spiritual tea, and a spring of spiritual water from his storage ring and began to brew the tea. He then took out the spiritual origin pearl he had obtained from Xiahou Wuwa. Since the spirit vein at home had already been upgraded to a second-rank superior grade, he did not immediately give the pearl to Ling Zixiao to nourish the spirit vein. Now, it could be put to good use, allowing the 3 of them to cultivate simply and restore their spiritual energy after making talismans in the room. To make a trip to the Jin Kingdom, at the very least, they'll need to break through to core formation. At that moment, Lu Chongqing thought of another daughter, the one in the 5 Poisons cult in Jin Kingdom, whom he had never met. According to his expectations, to visit his daughter in the 5 Poisons cult, he would need the strength of core formation to be on the safe side. Based on his current cultivation speed, even without worrying about the coagulation crystal elixir or core formation spiritual objects, breaking through to core formation would take at least 20 years. 20 years, she would be all grown up by then, Lu Chongqing thought about his 7-year-old daughter. After another 20 years, she would have grown into an adult. And if his daughter went astray by then, it would be quite worrisome. After all, with Nangong Meili around, he truly wasn't concerned about his daughter being bullied or anything like that. His only worry was that under the guidance of the demon sect, the child might be led astray. Jin Kingdom, 5 Poisons cult. Inside a palace. Aha, a tall yet emaciated middle-aged man with a fierce face and bloodshot eyes screamed in agony and struggled vehemently. Yet, his limbs, clavicles, and vital areas such as his waist and hips were all pierced by chains, stripping him of his mana, causing only the clanking of the chains to be heard. "Mommy, is he in a lot of pain?" A 7 or 8-year-old girl dressed in a purple starry tulle dress, looking like an exquisite doll, watched the scene with some unease and asked with concern. Despite her young age, she possessed a graceful figure, with tender and fair skin, clear and radiant eyes, a straight and delicate nose, and soft, pink lips. Her long, luscious black hair, shining like the starry night, lay smooth and glistening down her back. The gold silkworm goo will be ready in a few days, and then he won't be in pain anymore," replied an affectionate and stunningly beautiful woman as she fondly stroked her daughter's head, a gentle smile on her lips. Clad in a regal purple gown that showcased her enticing curves and breathtaking beauty, her incomparable face was beyond the words stunning or captivating. Ia the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Her peach blossom-like eyes, misty and alluring, were filled with a captivating charm that could steal one's soul. Her bright, luscious lips seemed to call for a kiss. Every inch of her body exuded an irresistible charm and seduction. The little girl bore a striking resemblance to her. Given the woman's peerless beauty, one could imagine how stunning the girl would grow up to be. "So he will no longer be in pain," muttered Nangong Mili, perhaps noticing a tinge of pity in her daughter's eyes. With a light lift of her snow-white hand stained with the juice of the rouge plant, the man before her could no longer scream out in pain. The agonizing grimace on his face turned numb, leaving him expressionless. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 800. The Heavenly Demon Phoenix arrives at the Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Does it not hurt anymore? Nangong Yao Yao led her own mother's slender jade arm, her eyes as pure as stars showing a hint of doubt, and always felt that the other party should still be in pain. After all, when she had been bitten by an insect, she had been in pain for so long, and her mother had been so worried. Now that an insect had burrowed into the other party, how could it not hurt? But of course, she believed what her own mother said. After a long while, a golden-skinned, silkworm-shaped goo insect drilled out from the mouth of a middle-aged man and flew into the little girl's hands. This scene appeared somewhat frightening. But the little girl was too cute, holding her mother's palm with an obedient face like an exquisitely carved white jade doll, which dispersed the terrifying atmosphere. "Let's go, Yao Yao." Seeing the golden silkworm goo had finished feeding, Nangong Mili softly said to her daughter, leading her away. "Master." Just as they returned to the hall, a girl dressed in a purple gown with delicate features and a dreamlike, ethereal, and misty temperament called out. "Sister Xiao Chan." Nangong Yao Yao, seeing the girl in purple, immediately broke into a happy smile on her porcelain face, let go of her mother's hand, and ran to hug her. At Tianzhu Peak, aside from her mother and her personal maidservant, Meng Xiaochan took care of her most of the time, so the two were very close. It's just that Meng Xiaochan had gradually become busy, and she hadn't seen her for a long time. "Yao Yao." Meng Xiaocan's face showed an alluring, chaotic smile, lifting the little girl into her arms. Then she kissed the little girl's soft and snowy cheek, inhaling the fragrant scent of her skin. She had always taken care of Nangong Yao Yao and loved the fragrance of her skin. Every time they were together, smelling this scent, she felt as if she was basking in the spring breeze, a comfortable closeness that reminded her of Lu Chongqing. "Xiao Chan, did something bring you here this time?" Nangong Mili looked at her disciple and daughter, a faint smile on her face. "Reporting to Master, I've received news that Patriarch Sima of the Julian Mountain has passed away." Meng Xiaochan released Nangong Yao Yao and spoke out. "Since Sima De has passed away, there is no need for Julian Mountain to exist anymore. You can take care of this matter." Nangong Mili said indifferently upon hearing this. "Master, how should we deal with the 5 major clans of Julian Mountain?" Meng Xiaochan inquired. "Yao Yao, what should you do against bad people who don't obey?" Nangong Mili moved forward, crouching down in a graceful posture, and asked her daughter with a smile. Of course, kill them." Nangong Yao Yao blinked, tilting her little head up, and spoke with an innocent face. 3 months later. This Myriad Beasts mountain range is still majestic and expansive. But looking at it this way, it shouldn't take long before we reach Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Lu Chongqing, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan stood on the deck of the spiritual vessel, overlooking the sea of clouds, looking down at the forest, mountains, and buildings below, scattered like stars in the sky. They could see a majestic mountain range with overlapping peaks, stretching far and wide, known as the famous Myriad Beasts mountain range. Myriad Beasts mountain range. Lu Miaohuan looked at the sea of clouds, somewhat puzzled. As Foundation establishment cultivators, Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaoge could barely make out the scene below. She was only in the energy refinement late stage and could only see the surrounding sea of clouds, not making out the details below clearly. Hee hee. Lu Chongqing saw his wife's expression, and with a light lift of his hand, Mana formed a water mirror, displaying some of the general scenery below for Lu Miaohuan to see. Right then, a system notification sounded in Lu Changsheng's mind. Congratulations, host's offspring has reached 100 descendants. You are awarded 1 treasure drawing opportunity. 100 now. This child money really kept me waiting. Lu Chongqing, hearing this system notification, was slightly startled, a hint of amusement in his eyes. Like with his own children, he had received child money in increments of 10 by 10. The novel_fire. Ed website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. But for his grandchildren, it was increasing by 50 each time. For the next child money, he suspected he would need to have 200 grandchildren before receiving it. Somewhat slack these days. I remember it only took a little over 4 years for the previous 50, but this time it actually took 5 years. Lu Chongqing furrowed his brows, recalling that it had been almost 5 years since the last grandchild milestone with the system's child money. But a rate of 5 years is also not bad, it's acceptable. I just don't know how many grandchildren have a spiritual root, and if the system will again give child money. Lu Chongqing pondered to himself. Although his Lu family now had 100 grandchildren, only 5 of them had a spiritual root. This ratio was still quite good, but since all 5 grandchildren had a lower-grade spiritual root, it indeed made Lu Chongqing sigh. He knew that for a genius to emerge in his family, it was still up to him, the patriarch, to work hard. After spending some time on deck with his wife, enjoying the scenery, Lu Chongqing returned to his room to start the treasure drawing. Having experienced the drawing many times, he could now remain unfazed during the process, without any unusual demeanor. As for why he didn't put off the drawing, it was mainly because he couldn't resist doing it as soon as it became available. System, draw. Lu Chongqing silently commanded in his mind. A light red roulette wheel emerged, a streak of golden light appearing, spinning rapidly. After a moment, the golden light slowed down and stopped on pet, ding. Congratulations to the host, you have obtained a spiritual pet, Heavenly Demon Phoenix. The reward has been dispatched to the system space. The host can check it at any time. A divine bird pattern, bathed in gold and burning with crimson flames, emerged from the roulette, accompanied by a system notification. Pet, Heavenly Demon Phoenix. Last time, on the way to Wuxia Immortal City on the spiritual vessel, I drew the cold blue dark turtle. This time, on the way to Azure Phoenix Immortal City on the spiritual vessel, I drew the Heavenly Demon Phoenix, which is really, if you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know and report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 801, Heavenly Demon Phoenix, arrive at Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Lu Chongqing browsed the rewards, his eyebrows slightly raised, and a smile flashed across his face. The Novel Fire, any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He had previously planned to give Su Ruyin a heaven-ranked demon beast. However, the only pets at home were the 9 netherhound, cold blue dark turtle, 6-winged golden silkworm, and abyssal ghoul blossom. Both the cold blue dark turtle and abyssal ghoul blossom already had owners. The 9 netherhound, being his first pet beast and the family's guard dog from years past, he naturally wouldn't give away. As for the remaining 6-winged golden silkworm that had advanced to 2nd rank, its combat power was decent, and he wasn't keen on giving it away either. So, he planned to give away whatever he drew next. But now, seeing that it was a flying spiritual pet related to the true spirit phoenix, Lu Chongqing hesitated to give it away. However, it doesn't matter. To cultivate it to second rank, third rank, at least would take several decades, even hundreds of years. Granting Su Ren the contract, along with the cultivation of beast techniques, could allow this heavenly demon phoenix to grow at the fastest rate, Lu Chongqing pondered silently. Then, his mental spirit stirred slightly as he looked towards the system space to check the specific details of this heavenly demon phoenix. Spiritual pet, heavenly demon phoenix, grade, heaven grade top quality, description, a heaven grade top quality bloodline demon beast with the true spirit heavenly phoenix lineage, capable of growing to peak strength in 500 years, reaching 4th rank, TISC, TSK, heaven grade top quality with true spirit heavenly phoenix lineage. Indeed extraordinary. Lu Chongqing reviewed this spiritual pet's information and felt quite pleased. If nurtured, it could serve as his personal mount. Currently, he mainly relied on spirit boats and flying artifacts for travel. He was somewhat behind in terms of flying mounts. Although there was a green jade Luan bird at home, it was merely capable of flight and leaned towards being an ornamental spiritual pet. Now, if he took good care of this heavenly demon phoenix, he might have a fine flying mount in the future. Since it was not convenient now, and he lacked time, Lu Chongqing didn't extract it from the system space, planning to arrange it once he returned to Bai Lake Mountain. Half a month later. Fellow Taoists, we have arrived at Azure Phoenix Immortal City. The green cloud spirit ship descended slowly in front of a majestic and towering immortal city, engulfed in green jade spiritual light. This Azure Phoenix Immortal City and Zhuxiao Immortal City are just so different. Lu Chongqing, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan observed the surrounding situation of the Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Compared to Zhuxiao Immortal City, Azure Phoenix Immortal City was larger and more bustling. Pedestrians, cultivators of various appearances, were constantly coming and going, Taoists, knights, scholars, monks, barbarians. Momentarily, Lu Chongqing felt as though he had arrived at a mundane city. The trio disembarked from the spirit ship and lined up at the city gate. Watching the bustling crowd, Lu Chongqing noticed that nearly half of these people had faces shrouded with murderous, evil, or bloody auras. Their temperaments were completely at odds with his, Lu Miaoge's, and Lu Miaohuan's. Guards patrolling around the city gate in spiritual armor each bore an air of solemn killing intent. Is this the so-called sanctuary for loose cultivators? Lu Chongqing muttered to himself, aware that most cultivators who came to Azure Phoenix Immortal City were loose cultivators. The aim of these loose cultivators in coming to Azure Phoenix Immortal City was nearly all the same, to fight for a future. Qi refinement vying for foundation establishment vying for middle stage, late stage, even false core formation. Thus, most of these individuals relied on hunting demon beasts and exploring ancient ruins and dungeons for survival, battle-hardened from numerous fights. Feiyu has been living here for over 10 years, Lu Chongqing thought of his good brother, Li Feiyu. He was always aware of the dangers of Azure Phoenix Immortal City. But now, having arrived at this loose cultivator's sanctuary and seeing the local conditions, he formed a clear realization. He understood that this so-called sanctuary for loose cultivators was actually a breeding ground. Each loose cultivator who could break through foundation establishment here and make a name for oneself was extraordinary. They had all fought their way through with blades and spears, incomparable to home-trained cultivators from families like Lu Yuanzhong or Bai Yunyang. I wonder how Feiyu is doing now, whether he's in the city. Lu Chongqing took a deep breath and exhaled. He had come to Azure Phoenix Immortal City en route, taking the Jinyang sect spiritual vessel towards the Jinyang sect, naturally prepared to check on his good brother, Li Feiyu's condition. Seeing the city's situation and thinking about how his friend had struggled here for over a decade, his mood grew heavier. Especially since Azure Phoenix Immortal City had faced a century-rare beast tide a few years ago. At that time, he had lost communication with Feiyu, thinking something bad happened. Because the city gate had separate channels for Qi refinement and foundation establishment, it didn't take long before the three of them reached the front. Lu Chongqing paid 30 spirit stones, received his identity jade, and entered Azure Phoenix Immortal City with his wife. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know and report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 802, Encounter in Immortal City, Demonic Body. Lu Chongqing and his wife entered Azure Phoenix Immortal City and found a small courtyard in the inner city to temporarily reside in. This trip was destined for the Jinyang sect, and he naturally had it all planned. He made inquiries early and confirmed that the spiritual vessel of the Jinyang sect wouldn't depart for another 2 months. After settling down, Lu Chongqing mentioned to Lu Miaoge that he was going to visit Li Feiyu's place in the outer city district to see if Li Feiyu was at home. Are you looking for Daoish Li? Daoish Li went out some days ago, and it will probably take quite a while for him to return. I'm not quite sure when, said the old neighbor, bowing to the handsome and distinguished-looking Lu Chongqing in front of him. He didn't know whether Li Feiyu had offended the senior before him or what, but it had led to a visit. Lu Chongqing nodded, knowing that a cultivator like Li Feiyu would mostly be enduring hardships in cultivation or be away for long periods. He then took out a middle-grade spirit stone and a communication talisman. If you see Daoish Li return, please notify my family at once. Of course, senior. As soon as Daoish Li returns, I will notify you right away. The old man's eyes gleamed upon seeing the middle-grade spirit stone, as he said obsequiously, bowing. While not a huge sum for him, the middle-grade spirit stone was a windfall. Especially since he could make the acquaintance of a Foundation establishment cultivator through this. Even in Azure Phoenix Immortal City, a Foundation establishment cultivator was considered an important figure. Not to mention that the outer city district is basically filled with qi refining loose cultivators. Sigh. Lu Chongqing shook his head and exhaled, walking out of the ancient streets. He was going to stay in Azure Phoenix Immortal City for 2 months and didn't know if he would be able to meet Li Feiyu. Just then, he saw a man in his 40s, tall and clad in black armor, coming toward him from the end of the alley. With sharp eyebrows and a fierce aura, yet with a scruffy beard and a countenance weary with age, he looked much more peaceful. The man stopped in his tracks upon seeing Lu Chongqing, his expression surprised and uncertain, and he couldn't help but ask, Chongqing. Lu Chongqing recognized the familiar yet strange face and knew who he was. He didn't expect to lament not seeing him moments ago, only to turn the corner and encounter him. He immediately showed a smile and said, Feiyu, it has been a long time. Chongqing, what brings you to Azure Phoenix Immortal City? Li Feiyu, hearing these words, knew he hadn't mistaken, and his face showed a look of surprise. But seeing Lu Chongqing, who looked the same as he had 20 years ago, as if an immortal, Li Feiyu felt at a loss for a moment. The two had corresponded by letters, and Li Feiyu knew that Lu Chongqing had broken through to Foundation establishment years ago. While he himself had been toiling in Azure Phoenix Immortal City and was still at the 9th level energy refinement, Foundation establishment seemed far away. I just happened to have some business to attend to. Lu Chongqing smiled warmly, familiarly giving him a pat on the shoulder. I came over earlier and heard you were away. I thought I might not see you this trip. After awakening his memories at the Qingyun sect's heart inquiry platform, Li Feiyu could be called his best and only true friend, a good brother. As for Hong Yi, in his heart, he was only half as important. Not just because of the life-saving grace Li Feiyu had shown in the past, but the friendship that had accumulated while living as sons-in-law together on Qingzhou Mountain. My trip outside didn't yield much, so I came back early. Quite the coincidence. Li Feiyu showed a smile that hadn't changed in the 18 years of separation, his heroic and fierce face softening. Indeed, a laughter in today's reunion dispelled the vicissitudes of the past. Come on, let's find a place to sit and have a drink. This Azure Phoenix Immortal City really is quite different from what I had imagined, Lu Chongqing said with a full smile. The two headed toward a nearby tavern. It seems like Daoist Li and this Foundation Establishment Senior have an extraordinary relationship, mused the old neighbor from afar, observing the demeanor of Lu Chongqing and Li Feiyu. Drunk Immortal Pavilion. Inside a private room. Lu Chongqing and Li Feiyu were drinking and reminiscing. Although they had kept up correspondence in the many years, they had only exchanged a dozen or so letters, merely maintaining contact. SAR the Novel Fire, net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. And in those letters, neither of them would talk much about their own circumstances. For instance, Li Feiyu never mentioned his hardships, only recounting various happenings, sights, and joyful events in Azure Phoenix Immortal City. And Lu Chongqing did the same, mostly talking about his children at home, as well as Li Feiyu's children and the Crimson Whale gang. Because he understood that Li Feiyu's circumstances couldn't be compared to his own. Talking too much about his own life would seem like boasting and could make others uncomfortable. Even though he believed their relationship wouldn't be affected that way, as a friend, he still paid attention to this. Who would have thought that you, Chongqing, would become a patriarch yourself after all these years? Li Feiyu marveled upon learning about Lu Chongqing establishing the Blue Lake Mountain Lu family. Back then, they both became sons-in-law on Qingzhou Mountain in pursuit of the immortal path. Now, Lu Chongqing had risen from a son-in-law to a patriarch. Feiyu, what are your plans for the future? Do you intend to return after achieving Foundation establishment? Lu Chongqing learned of Li Feiyu's experiences over the years. Initially, he came to Azure Phoenix Immortal City with 3 companions. But along the way, one met a tragic death, and another chose to depart, ultimately leaving only 2 to arrive in Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Upon arriving, they realized just how brutal the competition was for bottom-tier loose cultivators, struggling to survive in the outer city district. Fortunately, Li Feiyu had some knowledge of spirit plant and spirit slaughter skills, which allowed him to barely scrape by. Once he was acclimated, he started hunting demon beasts in the mountains. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 803, Encounter in Immortal City, Demonic Body. More than a decade had passed, and his close friend who first arrived at Azure Phoenix Immortal City with him died at the hands of demon beasts in the 2nd year. Over time, he had met many people, but after more than a decade, those who had left, and those who had died had died. I don't even know, after all these years, I feel like I've gotten used to living this way. To go back now, not only would I be dissatisfied, I wouldn't even know what to do. Li Feiyu shook his head and smiled. Just like you said at the beginning, Chongqing, we are fortunate to possess spiritual roots and have a fate with immortality. Having embarked on this path, we should advance bravely and diligently, pushing forward to live up to the generous gift from the heavens. If we choose to give up on ourselves, to abandon the journey halfway through, how could we be content to live a mediocre life with that weighing on our hearts? His initial arrival at Azure Phoenix Immortal City was driven by the hope to carve out a future for himself, to build a foundation for success. To achieve foundation establishment was to succeed. But now, having seen and learned so much, his ambitions had broadened and he was no longer content with just foundation establishment. In his view, foundation establishment was merely the true entrance into the cultivation world, the starting point to experience the wonders it had to offer. Once he achieved foundation establishment, he would never want to go back. Sigh. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongqing understood Li Feiyu's thoughts. If he wanted to succeed in cultivation, he would have to fight for it here in Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Choosing to go back would be tantamount to giving up on his cultivation halfway. Yet, having experienced the wonders of the immortal world, how many would willingly settle for a life of mediocrity? Or rather, being content with the ordinary wasn't an option for Li Feiyu. He wouldn't have chosen to come to Azure Phoenix Immortal City, witnessing all kinds of cruelty, and still hold on. Feiyu, you're at the 9th level of energy refinement now. you should be preparing for foundation establishment, right? Lu Chongqing broke the silence and inquired. Even though the other party had a method of concealing his cultivation, it was an open book in front of his divine sense at the peak of foundation establishment. The beast tide came recently. I was lucky enough to make a small fortune, gathering a lot of materials. I'm currently looking for people to pool resources for alchemy. If that doesn't work out, I'll wait until I have enough spirit stones to bid on a foundation establishment pill, Li Feiyu explained. Pooling resources for alchemy. Lu Chongqing was a bit surprised to hear this. This is a common method for loose cultivators in Azure Phoenix Immortal City to obtain foundation establishment elixirs. Li Feiyu smiled and clarified, it's very hard for a loose cultivator to gather all the materials needed for a foundation establishment elixir on their own, so they often cooperate with others. For example, someone who is lucky enough to obtain a heavenly spirit fruit or a special monster core but lacks other complementary materials would seek to cooperate with someone who has them. In this way, when the elixir comes out of the furnace, whoever contributed the most gets first pick. If only one pill is successfully formed, only one person can choose, and the others have to accept their loss, but if there are multiple pills, everyone stands to gain, Li Feiyu said. I see. Lu Chongqing nodded his head upon understanding. He thought that it was quite a scheme, something he had never heard of before coming to Azure Phoenix Immortal City. How are your preparations going? Lu Chongqing continued to ask. For the foundation establishment pill, I'm just short of the main ingredients and a few key supplements. If there's someone willing to cooperate, I can offer money to purchase these supplements, which is not too difficult in the Immortal City. If no one wants to cooperate, then I'll just sell these materials for spirit stones when the time comes, Li Feiyu said, looking completely unfazed. Feiyu, I just happen to have a foundation establishment elixir here, you can buy it from me. If you don't have enough spirit stones, you can pay me back later, Lu Chongqing said, taking out a foundation establishment pill he had obtained from Xiahou Wuxia and handed it to Li Feiyu. Since he was able, he naturally wanted to lend a hand to his good brother in such a situation. Initially, he had sold and given away a foundation establishment elixir to Qingzhou Mountain for the sake of Lu family loyalty and Lu Miaoge. He had written an IOU for Zhao Qingqing for a foundation establishment elixir out of acquaintance and with a bit of ulterior motive. But giving the foundation establishment elixir to Li Feiyu now held no hidden agenda. It was purely for the friendship they shared back then and the life-saving grace he had received from Li Feiyu. As for why he didn't just give it as a gift, he knew Li Feiyu well enough, he would definitely refuse to accept it if it was offered for free. Foundation establishment elixir. Li Feiyu was astonished when he heard Lu Chongqing nonchalantly offer him a porcelain bottle. Although he knew his friend had had some fortune and was now no ordinary elder, he never imagined that Lu Chongqing would casually offer up a foundation establishment elixir, suggesting he could owe the spirit stones if necessary. Having been in Azure Phoenix Immortal City for so many years, he had not only seen but also experienced friends backstabbing each other for profit. Yet here, Lu Chongqing was offering him a foundation establishment elixir so generously, it really moved him, and he was at a loss for words. After all these years, you haven't changed a bit, Chongqing. Soar the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Li Feiyu said with a wishful smile. He had always known that Lu Chongqing was exceptionally generous with those around him. Back in the day, most of his spirit stone expenditures were for his wives, concubines, and children. When he had gone out for trials, Lu Chongqing gave him a stack of talismans, a middle-grade puppet, and 300 spirit stones. Years had passed, and Lu Chongqing had become even more generous. Now he was even taking out such a rare elixir medicine as a foundation establishment elixir so casually. At that moment, Li Feiyu's emotions were complex, flooded with numerous feelings. After so long in Azure Phoenix Immortal City, he had witnessed countless people fighting to the death for a single foundation establishment elixir, losing their lives in the process. Even he could not guarantee he would be able to secure a foundation establishment elixir before the age of 60. Yet Lu Chongqing could so easily produce one. It's our friendship that hasn't changed. Lu Chongqing placed the foundation establishment elixir on the table and laughed. Let's not stand on ceremony with each other. If you really feel uncomfortable about it, you can repay me more when you have the spirit stones. Think of it as interest. Aren't you afraid that it'll fail the foundation establishment? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 804, Encounter in Immortal City, Demonic Body. Li Feiyu was deeply touched, knowing that Lu Chongqing said so because he feared Li would refuse. I have confidence in you. Lu Chongqing half-jokingly said, if it really fails, then you can come to Bihu Mountain to work and pay off your debts. All right. Li Feiyu chuckled, but it will still take me 2 or 3 years to reach the peak of qi refining and attempt foundation establishment. During this time, I'll see if I can gather enough human refinement foundation establishment elixirs in the Immortal City. If not, I'll go home and find you. It has been many years since I've gone back. It's indeed time to visit. Li Feiyu spoke with a tone and expression that carried a trace of heaviness. He still had parents, a wife, and children at home, but for the sake of cultivation, he had not visited them for many years, which could be said to be quite irresponsible. All right. Lu Chongqing was silent for a moment, not insisting. He knew that deep down, Li Feiyu still wanted to give it another try. Regarding this feeling, he could probably understand. Foundation establishment was the purpose and persistence of the other party in coming to Azure Phoenix Immortal City for so many years. Now, relying on step-by-step efforts, he had reached the final step. If he completed it with someone else's help, there would inevitably be some regrets in his heart. Thank you, Chongqing. Li Feiyu said with a smile on his face. I've said it before, there's no need to be so polite between us. Lu Chongqing handed a yin-yang sensing talisman to Li Feiyu. I will be in Azure Phoenix Immortal City for 2 months, if you need anything, feel free to find me. Okay. Li Feiyu took the yin-yang sensing talisman. After bidding farewell to Li Feiyu, Lu Chongqing returned to the inner city. In the following days, he spent his time strolling and enjoying the Immortal City with his wife, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan. Although this excursion was to visit his children, it also doubled as a vacation for the couple. During this period, Lu Chongqing called Li Feiyu out to join them casually. Seeing Lu Miaoge, the former young lady of the Lu family, having also achieved foundation establishment, Li Feiyu was quite emotional. After all, from his current perspective, it was somewhat difficult for Lu Miaoge to achieve foundation establishment. The Novel Fire. Any website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Moreover, from the changes in Lu Miaoge's appearance and temperament, he could roughly guess that she must have encountered some fortunate opportunity. And that this opportunity might have something to do with Lu Chongqing. He didn't inquire or pay much attention to this, instead acting as a guide for Lu Chongqing in the Immortal City. However, he had been in Azure Phoenix Immortal City for many years and was more familiar with the outer city than the inner city. He was even less familiar with the inner city than he was with the Myriad Beasts mountain range. After all, for more than a decade, he spent most of his time in the Myriad Beasts mountain range. Speaking of the Myriad Beasts mountain range, I obtained a treasure map before. It's suspected to be in the Myriad Beasts mountain range. Feiyu, help me take a look. When Lu Chongqing heard Li Feiyu mention the Myriad Beasts mountain range, it reminded him of the treasure map he had obtained from Fangyu. He had initially planned to auction off this treasure map, but Ling Zixiao said it wouldn't fetch a good price. Now that he had come to Azure Phoenix Immortal City, he thought it might sell for a decent price. A treasure map. Li Feiyu was surprised. Then he examined the treasure map Lu Chongqing handed over. After scrutinizing it for a moment, he pondered, this map's relic is likely in the Myriad Beasts mountain range, but it seems to be in a deeper part of the range. How much could this treasure map be worth? Lu Chongqing inquired. He wasn't particularly concerned about where the relic was, since he had no intention of exploring. Maps of relics located deep in the Myriad Beasts mountain range pose significant danger even for Foundation establishment cultivators to visit. If there's only one map, it probably isn't worth much. It needs more information related to the relic to be valuable. Most relics, after all, are bound with various prohibitions, Li Feiyu spoke out. He had spent many years exploring relic sites and cave mansions. He indicated that such treasure maps are often forgeries. Unless there is related information that can verify the situation of the relics, or related items, it is difficult to sell them for a high price. Even a map like the one Lu Chongqing had, though it looked complicated, might only sell for a few thousand spirit stones, and it would still be hard to sell. I heard before that this ancient relic contained top-tier inheritances, opportunities for core formation, and even nascent soul. I thought it could be worth quite a lot, but it turns out to be just this. Lu Chongqing lightly chuckled, not really minding. If you had items related to the relic, Chongqing, or if you had explored and confirmed it yourself, it could fetch a high price, even more than 10,000 spirit stones. In places like Azure Phoenix Immortal City, even the City Lord Mansion would purchase information of this sort, Li Feiyu spoke with a smile. Items related to the relic. Lu Chongqing raised an eyebrow, pondering, and did not remember collecting any particular items when clearing out the gains. He didn't think much of it and continued, City Lord Mansion. I heard that previously when the Beast Tide attacked, the master of the Immortal City, Azure Phoenix Immortal, personally took action and fought 3 great demons alone, killing one and gravely injuring another. That's right, Azure Phoenix Immortal did indeed take action. Li Feiyu's eyes showed a mixture of emotion, longing, and admiration. Although he couldn't see clearly on that day, the brief appearance of Azure Phoenix Immortal had made a deeply profound impression on him. Especially since she was a woman, it made him respect her even more and feel that one should aim to live such a life. And seeing Azure Phoenix Immortal, a woman and a first-grade independent cultivator, reaching such heights, inevitably inspired him. Wow, Azure Phoenix Immortal, Qinghuan Dao Bing. As Lu Chongqing listened to Li Feiyu recount the scene of the Beast Tide, he couldn't help but sigh. He was eager to meet this Azure Phoenix Immortal, renowned as Jiang Country's #1 independent cultivator. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed. That day, outside of Azure Phoenix Immortal City, a spiritual vessel surrounded by golden spiritual light slowly descended. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 805, Encounter in Immortal City, Demonic Body. _4 Compared to the spiritual vessel of Qingyun sect, this spiritual vessel looked slightly smaller, but the number of its cannon turrets seemed greater. CTH Novelfire. Any website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Feiyu, when we meet again, you can always write to me at by Lake Mountain if there's anything. Lu Chongqing said to Li Feiyu. Okay, Chongqing. Miss, second miss, have a smooth journey, Li Feiyu nodded and bowed. Subsequently, Lu Chongqing and the 2 others lined up to board the spiritual vessel of Jinyang sect. This spiritual vessel of Jinyang sect was much like that of Qingyun sect, and the seating also roughly divided into 3 tiers. Thanks to the token given by Tianyuan True Immortal, the 3 of them were arranged in a first-class luxurious cabin. Who? Li Feiyu watched as Lu Chongqing boarded the spiritual vessel with a hint of being sentimentally attached. On one hand, a gathering of friends was now again a parting for an unknown future meeting. Furthermore, Lu Changsheng's son and daughter had been taken in as disciples by Jinyang sect, causing him to travel great distances from by Lake Mountain to Azure Phoenix Immortal City, then on to Jinyang sect in Yu Country. Yet, he himself had been away from home for over a decade, never once returning. I've rested enough on this trip, time to continue striving with effort. 3 years, whether I achieve foundation establishment or not, I should return for a visit. Li Feiyu muttered to himself, setting a time limit for himself. He then turned and left. He did not return to Azure Phoenix Immortal City but instead headed towards the direction of the Myriad Beasts mountain range. Feiyu, I hope you won't need to use this talisman. Aboard the spiritual vessel, Lu Chongqing seemed to see Li Feiyu heading to the Myriad Beasts mountain range and muttered in his heart. Through interactions over recent days, he could generally sense that his inevitable influence had affected Li Feiyu's mentality. This might cause Li Feiyu to be even more eager to break through to foundation establishment. That was why he gave Li Feiyu a first-order top-grade puppet today, indicating it was a sentiment of his heart. But within the core of the puppet, he had placed a third-rank substitute talisman. As long as Li Feiyu installed a spirit stone in the puppet, he should be able to discover this talisman. This way, in the face of danger in the future, it could save his life. Chongqing, Lu Miaoga noticed Lu Changsheng's sentimentality due to the parting and showed a tender expression on her face, holding his hand silently to comfort him. "I'm fine. It's just that seeing Feiyu in this situation has made me a bit emotional," Lu Chongqing said with a smile and a gentle voice. Not long after, the spiritual vessel embarked on its journey, flying toward Jinyang sect. Half a year more, and they'll be at Jinyang sect, able to see Qingshan and Qingzhu. Lu Chongqing looked out the window, mind wandering to what his son, Lu Qingshan, and his daughter, Lu Qingzhu, would look like now at Jinyang sect. Demonic sect. Inside a spacious hall that seemed to be constructed of obsidian stone. The entire hall's walls, the ground, and the ceiling were all smooth, without any decorative patterns or even windows or doors. Just at this moment, a young man with a cold face and snow-white hair, dressed in a black robe adorned with dragon patterns, appeared out of thin air in the center of the hall. Kikatamu Prajna Sami, the young man with white hair chanted indifferently. Buzz buzz buzz. At that instant, on the hall's walls, demonic creatures, ferocious and diverse in form, slowly emerged. Though merely patterns, they seemed vibrantly alive, as if about to step out from the walls, imposing an indescribable terror on those who beheld them. Boom boom boom, the entire hall started to shrink as the demons appeared. Endless crimson light surged within the hall as if accompanied by wailing sounds. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Chu Chang'e, faced with such tumult, stood unmoving, his luxurious dragon-patterned black robe and a head of snow-white hair flailing in disarray. The grand hall continued to shrink and compress, the bloodlight becoming ever more intense, pressing towards Chu Chang'e, making it seem as though he was shouldering a mountain, his body gradually bending. Chu Chang'e's expression remained unchanged, he held on steadfastly, the bones in his body creaking and crunching, with blood gradually trickling from his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, on the walls, one by one, the red light from unknown demon patterns flared, and threads of mist began converging towards Chu Chang'e. It surged in and out of his mouth and nose like two dragon pillars, exceedingly demonic. Crack! 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 Spurt! 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 As the grand hall grew smaller and smaller, Chu Chang'e's body seemed to become heavier, the bones in his body crackling chaotically, veins and blood vessels swelling like earthworms, dragon-patterned black robes bursting open with blood spattering. Humming humming humming, demon patterns on all sides lit up, roaring and hissing, turning into a mist of multicolored fog that swirled towards Chu Chang'e's flesh. These wounds immediately began to heal at a visibly rapid pace. But the process repeated itself, Chu Chang'e's body kept rupturing and healing, nearly turning into a bloodied figure, standing silently unmoved. If not for the constant chaotic crackling of his bones and the slight bending of his spine, he might have seemed dead. It was hard to tell how much time had passed, as the bloodied figure of Chu Chang'e seemed unable to bear the pressure and was nearly about to collapse. But just then, bizarre and unpredictable demon runes began to emerge on Chu Chang'e's body and face, accompanied by a horrifying aura as deep and unfathomable as an abyss. Instantly, he steadied his stance and stood up once again. Boom boom boom. However, the entire grand hall had shrunk to the size of a coffin, extremely cramped, squeezing in on Chu Chang'e as though it intended to crush him into a mush of blood and flesh. Demon patterns on the surrounding walls, the ground, and the ceiling seemed to come to life, watching Chu Chang'e, even reaching out with claws, tails, and tongues to bite and gnaw at him. At that moment, a blood-colored phantom with 3 heads and 6 arms slowly emerged behind Chu Chang'e. The phantom was vague, indistinct, partially hidden and partially visible. But as soon as the blood-colored phantom appeared, all the demon patterns ceased their movements and returned to the walls, emitting waves of hissing and emitting intense blood light. Boom boom boom. The grand hall kept shrinking and compressing, yet it was held open by the 3 heads and 6 arms of the blood-colored phantom. Amidst the endless press of blood light, Chu Chang'e's body continued to rupture open, blood flying in every direction, allowing a multitude of multicolored mists to enter his body. Upon closer observation, it could be seen that as more and more mist entered Chu Chang'e's body, the blood-colored phantom on his back became more defined. Although the 3 faces were still blurry and elusive, manifesting and vanishing unpredictably, one could barely make out expressions of ferocity, hatred, and indifference. Humming, it was unclear how much more time passed before a sinister crescent moon lotus pattern in a sanguine hue emerged on Chu Chang'e's forehead, and demon runes across his body seemed to come to life, slithering over his skin, muscles bulging, turning into black and red scales. His eyes gradually turned pitch black, showing no whites, and his white hair reached down to his heels, tinged with streaks of blood light. Roar roar roar, ao ao ao, whimper whimper whimper. At this moment, demon patterns in every direction within the grand hall roared and howled as if celebrating, chanting in jubilation. The entire grand hall, once as suffocating and constricting as a coffin, expanded once more, becoming spacious. Demonic body, Chu Chang'e murmured to himself. At this moment, he resembled a monster, his body covered in black and red scales, eyes dark as ink, exuding an evil and terrifying presence that sent chills to the core. The next moment, the scales on his body and the blood-colored phantom slowly dissipated, all converging into a black and red, bizarrely shaped crystal on his chest. A wave of rolling black mist, akin to a great serpent, surged forth. It transformed into a powerfully built man in black armor, his body covered in black demon runes, his facial features deeply etched with malevolence, a bald giant. Upon seeing the black and red crystal on Chu Chang'e's chest, he immediately kneeled on one knee and shouted loudly, "Congratulations, young master, on completing the trial and condensing the demonic body." Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 806, Heaven Replenishing Elixir, 5 Elements Fruit, a Reunion. Ha. Demonic body. Chu Chang'e looked at the bald man in front of him, his pupils revealing a hint of sarcasm as he let out a sneer. He donned a black robe embroidered with dragon patterns anew and spoke in a low voice to He Chiu, "I need to make a trip to Jiang country, prepare some things for me." "What does young master need to prepare?" The bald man clad in black armor, his body inscribed with demon runes, lifted his head with a face full of obsequiousness. Chu Chang'e pondered softly, Foundation Establishment Elixir, Lifespan Extension Pill, Heaven Replenishing Elixir, Dragon Scale Fruit, 5 Elements Spirit Fruit, Soul Nurturing Jade. After listing a pile of elixir medicines and heavenly and earthly treasures, he continued, "As for the Heaven Replenishing Elixir and the 5 Elements Spirit Fruit, I want all that we currently have." Hearing this, the bald man froze in place. Then he hesitated. Young master, with your status, obtaining foundation establishment elixirs and lifespan extension pills is certainly no problem. You may have as many as you wish. But the heaven replenishing elixir, dragon scale fruit, and 5 elements spirit fruit are extremely rare. Our sect's treasure vault also doesn't have many of these, so if young master needs them, you must obtain the ancient master's consent. Ho said so. If that's the case, then go notify him. Chu Changa let out a light chuckle and said softly. As his voice fell, his figure vanished from the spacious and vast hall. Seeing this, Ho revealed a wry smile. Then, transforming into a roll of black fog, as sinuous as a dragon serpent, he arrived in front of a lofty and towering castle shrouded in mystery and depth. In front of the castle was a broad square. The square was surrounded by poles bearing black and red demon flags, as if figures of demon heads appeared faintly visible, creating a mysterious and dreadful momentum. Sect Master, Ho requests an audience. Ho bowed and called out to the grand hall. Boom! The gates of the castle, tall enough to reach the heavens, slowly swung open. Ho entered the castle, and at the very top was a sinister black throne, with statues and patterns of demons on both sides. Ho, what is it? At that moment, a mysterious robed man with an ethereal face and figure appeared on the throne. His features were indistinct, yet he exuded an inexplicable aura of sharpness and majesty. Especially his deep black pupils seemed like they could penetrate everything. The young master has already condensed the demonic body and is preparing to make a trip to Jiang country, and he needs, the bald man, clad in black armor with demon runes, his facial features deeply etched and fearsome, scratched his head and continued, but the ancient master is still in closed-door cultivation. This is a matter of great importance, and I cannot make a decision on my own, so I had to come and ask you, Sect Master. Demonic body. How long has it been and he's already condensed the demonic body? The man on the throne was visibly moved upon hearing this. These items he is preparing cannot be for his own use. Obviously, they are for someone else. His pale fingers tapped on the armrest as he murmured to himself, it seems he has understood his destiny. But these heaven-replenishing elixirs and 5 elements spirit fruits, give them to him. Just then, an aged and indifferent voice rang out. Soar the Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Suddenly, a youth dressed in a black robe appeared out of thin air in the hall. His jet-black hair was casually tied with a wooden pin, his appearance both handsome and exotic, exuding an air of time-worn experience that belied his age. Greetings, ancient master. Greetings, ancient master. Both the mysterious robed man on the throne and Ho bowed in salute upon seeing the youth. In at most 100 years, the ancestor of the Blood River sect will make his final bid by stirring up chaos, sacrificing the masses with blood, all in an attempt to achieve divinity transformation. My excellent disciple has condensed the demonic body in just 30 years. When the chaos begins, it will be the opportunity for his demonic body to reach great success, as well as for our demonic sect. His initiative in making such a request shows that he is already aware of his destiny. So let it be, just fulfill his wishes. The youthful ancient master spoke with a profound look in his eyes, his hands clasped behind his back. Yes, ancient master. The man in the mysterious robe bowed and assented. He then inquired softly, Ancient Master, now that he knows his destiny, will he possibly, rest assured, my disciple is not one who easily submits to fate. Besides, his making such a request is already a clear statement, said the youthful ancient master with a soft chuckle. Then he looked towards the bald man, when the time comes, accompany the young master, follow his arrangements throughout the journey, and meet any of his requests with your full effort. Understood. Ancient Master, rest assured, your humble servant understands. The bald man grinned, his face full of sycophantic eagerness to please. Ancient Master, since ancestor of the Blood River sect is planning to stir up chaos, should our demonic sect begin preparations early? The mysterious robed elder continued looking toward the youthful Ancient Master, inquiring respectfully. Naturally. The youthful Ancient Master smiled. Before long, the Blood River sect will discuss the matter of forming an alliance. When the time comes, you can handle it as you see fit. Having spoken, his figure disappeared within the hole. Farewell, Ancient Master. The mysterious robed man respectfully bade farewell, his gaze revealing a sliver of joy. His cultivation was finding it extremely difficult to advance further, to continue breaking through. A significant opportunity was essential. But such opportunities were exceedingly rare. Yet amidst chaos, tumult, and upheaval, came chances and opportunities. Half a year later. Outside the Jinyang marketplace. A spiritual vessel slowly descended and came to a halt. Fellow Taoists, we have arrived at the Jinyang marketplace. A deep and resounding announcement spread throughout the vessel. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing and his wife Lu Miaoge, along with Lu Miaohuan, stepped off the spiritual vessel. This trip on the spiritual vessel was said to head towards the Jinyang sect, but it was not a direct trip to the Jinyang sect. Instead, it stopped at the largest marketplace under the Jinyang sect's name. The three of them entered the marketplace, purchased a map of Yu country, and looked up the location of the Jinyang sect. From the Jinyang marketplace, it wasn't far to the Jinyang sect. It would only take about 2 or 3 days by driving the spirit boat. Immediately, Lu Chongqing piloted the spirit boat, taking his wife Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan toward the Jinyang sect. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 807, Heaven Replenishing Elixir, 5 Elements Fruit, Reunion. After all, having spent so much time on the road, the anticipation of finally seeing their children meant that the three of them were not in the mood to rest or amuse themselves at the marketplace. 2 days later, Lu Chongqing and his 2 companions arrived at the Jinyang sect. The Jinyang sect was located in the central region of the towering mountain range. The surrounding mountains had more stones than trees and spirit plants, which, basking in the sunlight, glittered brilliantly, bestowing a gentle gold hue on the clouds above, imbuing them with a dignified and majestic aura. Is this the Jinyang sect? S.E.A. The novel, F. Higher. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The three stood before the gates of the Jinyang sect, curiously observing, eager to witness the Immortal sect where their children resided. Subsequently, Lu Miaoge took out the token of Tianyuan True Immortal and had a disciple guarding the mountain go forth to announce their arrival. Husband, Lu Miaohuan looked at the Jinyang sect, gently biting her lip, her face revealing a complex expression of excitement, anticipation, and nervous confusion. After all, as a mother, she had not seen her son for 10 years. The imminent reunion with her son left her unsure of how to face him, or what to say. Not just her, but at this moment, Lu Miaoge too seemed a little distracted, looking into the Jinyang sect. It'll be okay. Lu Chongqing held the hands of his 2 wives, squeezing them gently, and reassured them in a warm voice. His own emotions were much calmer in comparison to the 2 women. However, the thought of being a father who hadn't seen his children in 12 years, kids who had previously barely come up to his chest, would now, after 12 years, have surely grown into adults. For a moment, even Lu Changsheng's own thoughts drifted in anticipation of the reunion with his children. About half an hour passed. Who? A crane's call rang out. A majestic, snow-white crane with a noble presence flew out from the Jinyang sect. Upon it stood a young man in a gold and white magical robe, with a tall and graceful posture, a clear and handsome face, red lips, white teeth, and spirited eyebrows. "Dad, Mom, Aunt." The young man saw Lu Chongqing, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan below and immediately showed an excited and joyful expression on his face, leaping directly down from the immortal crane. The three were briefly taken aback upon seeing the young man. In his features, they could discern the childhood visage of their son, Lu Qingshan. But many years had passed, and the once mischievous youth had grown up, transformed profoundly. Qingshan. Lu Miaohuan, with tears shining in her eyes, stepped forward and hugged her son tightly. She released him after a moment, examining him closely, pinching his face and arms. Ahem, Mom, I'm an adult now, not a little kid anymore." Lu Qingshan, seeing his mother still treating him like a child, coughed lightly. He slightly subdued his excitement and straightened his posture, showing a bit of composure. In Jinyang's sect, Lu Qingshan was after all someone with a certain status. Being treated as a child in front of everyone would indeed damage his image. "To Mom, you'll always be my child, and all this must have been hard on you." Lu Miaohuan gazed at her son, her eyes red and tearful, blinking back tears. Lu Qingshan was taken aback for a moment, knowing his mother's temperament well and aware that his absence over the years must have caused her great worry and longing. He wiped the tears from her eyes and grinned, saying, "What hardship could I have? It's just that I've made you worry, Mom. Look at me, do I look like someone who has suffered? On the contrary, Mom, you look thinner. Has Dad been giving you a hard time?" Lu Qingshan comforted his mother and then turned to Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaoge, his eyes brimming with joy, saying, "Dad, Aunt, what brings you to the Jinyang sect?" He was no longer the child he once was. He knew that the journey from Jiang country to Jinyang sect was extremely long. Even with the token from his master allowing them to travel by the spiritual vessel, the trip was still very troublesome and dangerous. With you and little Zhu at the Jinyang sect, we were naturally worried. Since we had the time, we decided to come visit." Lu Chongqing looked at his son, brimming with youthful vitality, and smiled, "Where's Zhu?" "Little Zhu is still at the sect." Lu Qingshan beamed with happiness and said, "I just received the message that you had arrived. I couldn't believe it, so I rushed over immediately and haven't yet informed little Zhu. Dad, Mom, Aunt, let's go inside and talk. Little Zhu will surely be delighted to know you're here." Lu Qingshan's momentarily composed demeanor vanished completely, speaking with a face full of glee and joy. Then he shouted to the white crane in the sky, "Fairy crane." But as he shouted, he secretly transmitted his voice to the immortal crane, "Fairy crane, these are my parents, please do me a favor and give us a lift." Lu Chongqing just realized that the white crane his son had just ridden was actually a second-rank spirit crane. It made him think to himself, his son was truly worthy of being a disciple of a nascent soul immortal, riding a second-rank spirit bird even at the Qi refinement realm. However, as a Foundation establishment cultivator with a divine sense comparable to the peak of Foundation establishment, he vaguely caught his son passing some messages to the other with divine sense. Realizing that the white crane was not his son's mount, it must be the mount, or perhaps the pet, of that Tianyuan true immortal. No need to shout so loudly. The fairy crane replied with a lack of good spirits, but descended from the sky, giving Lu Qingshan some face. "Dad, Mom, Auntie, you all come up." Lu Qingshan said with a beaming smile, gesturing for them to join him. Lu Chongqing and the two others did not reject their son's kind offer. The white crane was huge, several zhang in size, bigger than a bull, spaciously accommodating all four of them. Thus, the four of them rode the fairy crane into the Jinyang sect. Inside, mountains rose majestically with clouds swirling around them, an incredibly stunning sight. Through the misty clouds around the mountains, one could faintly make out various palaces and pavilions. In the center of these mountains, there was a golden high mountain, shining brilliantly, devoid of any vegetation, shimmering slightly, almost like a golden great bell. Dad, Mom, Auntie, that's the Tianyuan Peak where I reside. Lu Qingshan pointed towards a lush, blossoming, verdant mountain with waterfalls cascading down. It seems you all live in a pretty nice environment. Lu Chongqing commented with a laugh. Hee, not bad. Since the master is not often around, the entire mountain is just Sayazhur and me. Lu Qingshan said smilingly. Really, just you and Sayazhur on the whole mountain? Lu Chongqing was somewhat surprised upon hearing this. Not just him, Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan were also very surprised. Although the three had never been to the Jinyang sect, through Qingyun sect, they knew a bit about the situation of the immortal sects. They knew that if one managed a peak, there would have to be some disciples, stewards, executors, and the like. That's right, the master is often out and doesn't care much about administration, so it's just Sayazhur and me on Tianyuan Peak. But this is also quite nice, free and easy, Lu Qingshan spoke. As they spoke, the fairy crane approached the mountain. Lu Qingshan took out a token, and through a simple formation, entered it. The formation here simply served to block external probing. Most of the immortal sects, apart from their core forbidden areas, would not set up too many protective great formations, as having the external ones was sufficient. Unlike the elaborately carved palaces and pavilions of the other mountains, this peak was indeed quite simple. There was only a palace at the top, and elsewhere were but a few simple huts and several spirit fields and medicinal gardens. Sayazhur. Before the fairy crane could even land, Lu Qingshan leapt from its back, running towards the great hall and shouting loudly. Why are you still so impulsive? Lu Chongqing shook his head and laughed as he watched his son's antics. Then he took his wife's hand, floated across the space, descending from the crane's back, and arrived in front of the great hall. Soon after, Lu Qingzhu rushed out from the hall in haste along with Lu Qingshan. Now, this daughter of his had also grown into a graceful and stunningly beautiful young woman. She wore the disciple garments of the Jinyang sect, bearing a resemblance to her mother, Lu Miaoge, by about 70%. But compared to Lu Miaoge, she had less of an ethereal grace and more of a tranquil elegance. Sayazhur. Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaoge called out to their daughter. Daddy, Mom, Auntie. Lu Qingzhu saw the three people at the entrance, and her eyes immediately reddened with emotion, her delicate body trembling as she joyfully shouted. Then, her face beaming with happiness and tears, she rushed forward and threw herself into her father Lu Changsheng's arms. Sayazhur. As Lu Chongqing held his daughter feeling her like this, he gently stroked her hair and back. Seeing his son, Lu Qingshan, so independent and self-sufficient, he was naturally happy, but it didn't impact his emotions too much. But seeing his daughter so emotionally stirred, he too was moved, feeling a wave of guilt. After all, Lu Qingzhu, unlike Lu Qingshan, had a gentler disposition. Having been separated for so long, she must have often been alone, missing them sorrowfully. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 808, Chu Chang'e, is this a person of the demon path? Tianyuan Peak, inside the palace. The family of Lu Chongqing gathered together. I didn't expect father and aunt to have broken through to foundation establishment already. I was thinking of taking little Zhu back home after I break through to foundation establishment in a few years. Lu Qingshan said with a grin, his handsome face filled with happiness and joy. He then recounted his own and his sister's experiences over the years. And intentionally made himself look calm and composed, expressing that he had ranked in the top 50 in the sects sword trial competition. With his 7th level energy refinement cultivation, he defeated those at the 9th level. Not bad. Lu Chongqing praised with a chuckle. Qing Shan, are these competitions dangerous? Could you get hurt? Lu Miaohuan, who was beside him, listened to her son's stories, showing a face filled with happiness and pride, concernedly inquiring. She hadn't felt settled in her heart when she didn't see her son initially, but now seeing Lu Qingshan all well, she was relieved. Of course, there's no danger, mother, you can rest assured. Lu Qingshan said, full of youthful vigor and brimming with confidence. Lu Qingzhu, who had just cried out of excitement, still had slightly red eyes. At this moment, she gently leaned quietly against her mother's arm, listening to her brother recount various experiences. She only spoke softly about some topics, inquiring about her parents' home situation, or playfully challenging her brother's stories. Qingshan, Qingzhu, are you able to go out often? Now that you're here, I also plan to travel around your country, to get a sense of the local culture and people. Lu Chongqing spoke up. He had come this time not only to accompany his wives to visit their children, but also to see his son's situation and decide whether to give him the sword-charging bull's might, seed of law. Now that he had seen his son's situation, he had a good idea in mind. But having come all this way, it was natural not to just meet and leave. The family needed to spend quality time together. That's certainly possible, I just need to notify Crane Fairy. Lu Qingshan said excitedly, I haven't really gone out much to enjoy myself these past years. Since the Peak Master Tianyuan, true immortal of Tianyuan Peak, was often away and did not manage the peak much, he and his siblings enjoyed a lot of freedom. Immediately, he ran out of the palace, told Crane Fairy, and Lu Chongqing then piloted the spirit boat. The family flew out of Jinyang's sect to travel and play outside. Some are simple and generous, others are proud and arrogant, each person's circumstances are varied, and character alone doesn't define good or bad. Qingshan has a keen and shrewd edge to him, but he is also quick-witted. On the spirit boat, Lu Chongqing looked at his son Lu Qingshan, thinking to himself. Like Lu Pingan, Lu Xianji, Lu Chuanjin, Lu Yun, because the family was ordinary back then, the children didn't have much arrogance. Whereas Lu Qingshan, having been doted on from a young age at Qingzhou Mountain, possessed a semblance of an esteemed family's demeanor. Now possessing a spiritual body, entering an immortal sect, and being accepted as a disciple by a nascent soul immortal, he naturally had a certain proud aura. Lu Chongqing didn't necessarily see a problem with his son's temperament, but he was somewhat concerned. Because with such a temperament, once setbacks occur, they can be significant. But this temperament is quite suitable for the sword-charging bull's might, seed of law. Perhaps he could someday clear all the obstacles on the path of cultivation with a single sword. Lu Chongqing sighed lightly. Jiang Country, Zhoushan Mansion City. Chu Chang'e wore a plain black robe, his snow-white hair turned black and simply pinned up with a wooden hairpin, walking along the street like an elegant scholar. Shortly after, he arrived in front of a mansion, looking at the Chu residence sign, and walked in. The protector at the gate seemed not to see him, allowing him to move freely within the residence. Chu Chang'e walked through the old courtyard, his expression somewhat dazed. Then he leisurely moved to the graveyard and ancestral hall in the backyard, offering incense and worship. Xinjin probably still visits here. I wonder how Xinjin is now. The children must have grown up by now. Chu Chang'e murmured to himself, recalling the days he saw his sister, who was already a mother with several children. He sat alone in front of the tombstone for a long time before transforming into a streak of light and vanishing. Several days later, Chu Chang'e arrived outside Qingzhou Mountain. What is going on? Chu Chang'e's expression, usually calm, suddenly turned sharp and cold, his eyes turning deep and profound, captivating. He clearly remembered his sister and her family being in this family spirit land. But now, he couldn't feel any familial pulse, indicating that his sister wasn't there. Hey Chiao! He coldly stared at Qingzhou Mountain, flicking out a drop of crystal-clear scarlet blood. Yes, young master. A bald man dressed in black armor, his face covered with demon runes, immediately appeared, respectfully responding. CTH Nullfire. In website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He then quickly made a gesture incantation, turning the drop of blood into a mini dark red snake. The little snake looked in 2 different directions. Young master, there are people related to your bloodline in both directions. The bloodline is stronger in this direction, but it's farther away. It's weaker in this direction, but closer. Hei Chiu explained. In that case, let's check out this side. Chu Chang's cold expression faded, regaining his calm and serene demeanor. He swept the mealy little snake into his sleeve, and then transformed into a streak of light heading towards Red Leaf Valley Market. Red Leaf Valley Market. A few hours later, Chu Chang'e stood before the marketplace name. Through the blood-guiding snake in his sleeve, he knew the person he was looking for was here. He paid a spirit stone, gave a false name, and entered the marketplace. After a while, he stopped in front of a 3-story shop. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know and report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 809, Chu Chang'e. Is this a person of the demon path? Above hung a signboard, Bihu Mountain Spiritual Wine Shop. Bihu Mountain Spiritual Wine Shop. Chu Chang'e looked at the shop and walked straight in. Inside, various drinks were displayed, and a maid immediately came forward to receive him, asking what Chu Chang'e needed. "I'll just look around." Chu Chang'e softly spoke, heading deeper into the shop. "This customer, I am the shopkeeper of this spiritual wine shop. May I know if you need anything?" Inside the store, a young man who was browsing through books saw Chu Chang'e, put down his books, showed a slight smile, stood up, and courteously spoke. "Xinjin." Chu Chang'e looked at the young man in front of him, dressed in a blue silk robe, with an elegant and handsome demeanor, and momentarily hesitated. Even without using the blood snake in his sleeve, he knew that the other was his sister's son, his own nephew. Because he looked so much alike. Especially the facial features around the eyebrows and eyes, the slightly long eye corners when he smiled, just exactly like his sister. "Customer." Lu Chuanjun saw that the other was lost in thought, unchanged in expression, and called out. "Hee, sorry, I just got distracted by some thoughts." "What types of drinks do you have here?" Chu Chang'e asked softly with an amiable and learned demeanor. Long after Lu Chuanjun, Chu Chang'e walked out of the spiritual wine shop with a smile on his face. They had a simple chat, and the more he observed his nephew, the more pleasant he felt. However, considering his current situation, he did not reveal his identity. He planned to make further contact, get familiar, and see what his nephew's plans for the future were. At that time, as his uncle, he would help if he could. This was also one of his purposes for coming back. To see how his sister was doing and how his nephews and nieces were. Zhao, Lu Chuanjun watched Chu Chang's departing figure, his eyes revealing a thoughtful expression. Bihu Mountain. Soar the Nullfire. In website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Chu Chang'e turned to look at the shop sign again, planning to find out more about Bihu Mountain. Because they had just chatted, he knew that his nephew was not only the shopkeeper but also the junior owner. This made him curious about Bihu Mountain. After all, except for knowing that his brother-in-law was called Lu Changxing, he knew nothing else. Moments later, Chu Chang'e found a shop that dealt in information trading. Upon arrival, someone immediately came to inquire, "Daoist friend, may you be seeking some information? Do you have any information about Bihu Mountain here?" Chu Chang'e, in a black wide robe, like a graciously gentle scholar, softly inquired. "Bihu Mountain?" "Yes, of course." The female cultivator shopkeeper, a 40-something-year-old woman, replied enthusiastically upon hearing this, many people, just like Daoist friend, come to our shop to purchase information about Bihu Mountain. If Daoist friend is thinking of visiting Bihu Mountain as a visiting noble servant or an apprentice, our shop has channels for that and can even introduce you. The female cultivator said so. Oh. Is Bihu Mountain that famous? Chu Chang'e said, slightly surprised. Daoist friend jests, who in Red Leaf Valley Market doesn't know the big name of Bihu Mountain. The female cultivator laughed and said, what kind of information does Daoist friend need? All information about Bihu Mountain. Chu Chang'e spoke. We have it, Daoist friend, please wait a moment. The female cultivator replied, beaming. Soon after, she served Chu Chang'e some tea and went to fetch information about Bihu Mountain. After a while, she came back with a tray carrying 5 jade slips and said, Daoist friend, here is the information about Bihu Mountain, a generous price of 100 middle-grade spirit stones. Chu Chang'e nodded, took out a middle-grade spirit stone, then took the jade slips and checked them one by one. Bihu Mountain, once the territory of the Yu family, now the Lu family's domain. Mountain Lord Lu Changxing, once a son-in-law in the Lu family of Bihu Mountain, attacked the patriarch of the Yu family who interfered with his wife Lu Maiage's foundation establishment, immediately killed 3 great foundation establishers of the Yu family, and took Bihu Mountain from the hands of the Yu family, establishing the Blue Lake Mountain Lu family. Mountain Lord Lu Changxing has 7 wives and 43 concubines. Chu Chang'e had just read the information about the wives and concubines when his face suddenly turned cold, and the teacup in his right hand shattered into powder with a bang. He initially had a fairly good impression of his brother-in-law. One reason was that the other had refurbished their family home and erected monuments for his parents. Another was that he had met this brother-in-law once, 20 years ago. At that time, the other was with his sister, and the two were lovingly close. But now, seeing the information in the jade slip, his so-called brother-in-law actually had 7 wives, over 40 concubines, several maids, and 2 Dao companions. The matter of the children was even more outrageous, with the jade slip only stating that the latest count was 180, with more details unknown. This reminded him of the time he entered Qingzhou Mountain and saw his sister with 10 children by her side. Due to the blood resonance, he thought only 3 were his sisters, with the others likely being children from other families. It now appeared that all 10 children were sired by his cheap brother-in-law. Damn! A cold glint appeared in Chu Chang's eyes. Even if the other had 3 wives and 4 concubines, he could accept and understand. But from all the information in the jade slip, he was unable to accept and even suspected his brother-in-law to be a person of the demon path, practicing some form of dual cultivation absorption technique. Other than this scenario, he simply could not comprehend why a normal cultivator would marry so many spouses. And the number of children made him think of various demonic methods. In the demonic sect, there were many methods of using one's own bloodline children to enhance cultivation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:10, Chu Chang'e, is this a person of the demon path? Seeing Lu Changsheng's rise, which was filled with legendary hues, moving from a cultivator with a lower-grade spiritual root to his current status, made him seriously doubt if his brother-in-law was a person from the demon path. Under such circumstances, his sister was bound to suffer his oppression. Daoist, what's wrong? The female cultivator in the store heard a thud and felt the temperature inside seem to drop a few notches, giving her the shivers, as she turned to Chu Chang'e and inquired. It's nothing, I was just surprised by the stories about Mountain Lord Lu Changxing of the Bihu language. Is the information here all true? Chu Chang's expression was indifferent as he tried to keep his tone steady. Of course, Mountain Lord Lu has a big name, how could these stories be false? The female cultivator immediately spoke out, Daoist, you must be new to the Red Leaf Valley Market, right? If you don't believe it, just ask anyone in this market about Mountain Lord Lu and they will be able to tell you a thing or two. All right. Upon hearing this, Chu Chang's face darkened slightly as he nodded. Then he tossed a spirit stone, walked out of the shop, and disappeared into the crowd. What a strange person. Seeing this, the female cultivator muttered under her breath, but she happily pocketed the spirit stone. For her, this was a considerable income today, as the man did not bargain and even left a middle-grade spirit stone. Yu Country, Jinyang Marketplace. Lu Chongqing came to the market with his wife and children to have fun. Yu Country and Jiang Country were neighbors, their customs and habits did not show much variation. If one had to point out the differences, it would be in living habits and architectural styles. Speaking of differences, besides Jiang Country, the neighboring countries of Yu included Wu Country and Liang Country. These two countries had some notable differences. Wu Country had many who practiced body cultivation. Normal people almost all cultivated the martial path and were extremely prosperous in that aspect. Liang Country, on the other hand, belonged to the demonic sects and had a widely spread way of cultivation that involved using the blood and souls of fierce and demon beasts to merge into the physical body, cultivating by killing and absorbing blood and evil qi. Yu Country, Wu Country, and Liang Country often experienced frictions and wars. Additionally, to the north of Yu Country, there was a desert oasis. In the midst of the oasis stood the Black Desert Immortal City. This Immortal City differed from the Azure Phoenix Immortal City, Zhuxiao Immortal City, and Dream Immortal City of Jiang Country. It was a chaotic and special zone. Search * the Novelier. N.E.T. website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The entire city was shrouded in mystery. It was only known that there was a mysterious top-level cultivator overseeing it, influencing many surrounding cultivation nations and providing refuge for many wanted cultivators, loose cultivators, and heretic cultivators seeking sanctuary. If the Azure Phoenix Immortal City attracted countless loose cultivators thanks to the Myriad Beasts mountain range, then the Black Desert Immortal City was formed out of the law of the jungle, where survival of the fittest reigned in chaos. TSKS, Lu Chongqing, through reading books on regular days, had a general understanding of the southern wilderness cultivation realm. However, he knew very little about specific circumstances between these countries, since Jiang Country, excluding information about its neighboring Yu Country and Jin Kingdom, rarely had access to info about other nations. Thus, Lu Chongqing took his wife and children from Jinyang sect to Jinyang Marketplace and then to other marketplaces, leisurely touring the secular world, walking and seeing, experiencing the customs of Yu Country. Qingshan, come with me. That day, after dinner, Lu Chongqing said to his son Lu Qingshan. Having spent a month playing outside with his children, he was ready to use the seed of law on his son to see the effect. And since they had been out for so long, he was also planning to return. Father, what's the matter? Lu Qingshan, who had just finished eating and was considering another 2 bowls, looked up and asked upon hearing his father's words. Just something to discuss with you. Lu Chongqing beckoned. Upon hearing this, Lu Qingshan didn't ask further and stood up to follow Lu Chongqing. Beside them, Lu Miaoge, Lu Miaohuan, and Lu Qingzhu watched but did not mind. They guessed that Lu Chongqing was probably preparing to return and had some matters to entrust to his son before parting. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 811, Lu Chuanjin pays respects to uncle. Inside the room. Dad, is there something you want to talk about? Lu Qingshan closed the door and turned to his father with the question. Qingshan, what are your thoughts about the future? Lu Chongqing looked steadily at his son and asked calmly. The future. Lu Qingshan saw an uncommon serious expression on his father's face. He immediately put away his usual jovial demeanor and pondered for a moment before solemnly saying, the future is too distant and unpredictable. In my view, life is but a series of joys and grievances. Do whatever you want to do. My goal was to break through foundation establishment early and take little Zhu home to visit you, Mom, and maternal grandpa. Now that you and Andy have broken through foundation establishment, I don't need to worry about home. As long as the family is well and little Zhu is happy, I can live a carefree and merry life, fully enjoying my triumphs and revenges. If I truly have any ambitions, it would be to diligently cultivate, and one day, achieve core formation, attain a nascent soul, become famous throughout the southern wilderness, and elevate our family to the status of a nascent soul clan. By that time, my name might even merit its own volume in the family records, enshrining my great achievements and becoming a pride of the family. As Lu Qingshan spoke, his face initially remained serious, but as he went on, a conceited smile crept back onto his face. Ha, your thoughts are indeed unrestrained. Lu Chongqing couldn't help but chuckle when he heard what his son had to say. He then picked up the cup of tea on the table, poured a cup for his son, and said softly, "You should know that cultivation is not as leisurely as your sect makes it out to be, drifting on the clouds and soaring on the sword. To truly succeed on the immortal path, one must forge ahead through thorns and tread a lone path across an army of thousands, where one man's victory is built on the bones of many. My son of course knows, but I firmly believe that only with a fearless heart and bold advancement, cutting down all obstacles, can one truly reach the peak." Lu Qingshan declared with a carefree smile, his face showing a hint of reckless confidence. "Qingshan, the way of the sword is sharp, but in your father's view, the way of the sword is not merely about seeking sharpness. It's said that being too rigid can lead to breakage. Sometimes it's wise to hide your edge in the sheath, appearing blunt to others while using the sharpness to drive oneself." Lu Chongqing paused for a moment, then continued. From spending time together, he knew his son was not only brash but also flashy, with a heart that longed to show off before others. He understood this very well, but he still hoped his son would know when to hold back. "Dad, I understand what you mean and the reasoning behind it," Lu Qingshan replied as he lifted his cup of tea and downed it in one gulp, grinning, "but life is short, and most of it goes contrary to our wishes. Given that, one should enjoy life while one can, and revel in one's successes while they last. Only in this way can one live truly contentedly. Otherwise, if I were to die tomorrow, wouldn't that be a major loss and deeply frustrating? And as you know my temperament, I simply can't be as steady as you, Dad." By the end of his speech, Lu Qingshan found a word to describe his father after a moment of thought. Although he was only at the 7th level energy refinement, his years at the Jinyang sect had given him some insight. He knew his father must have had some significant opportunities and secrets. Otherwise, how could he have risen from a mere son-in-law in Qingzhou Mountain to his current position relying solely on his talent in the talisman path? It was clear he had always been hiding his skills, keeping secrets. As a son, he understood and even admired his father. But he himself could not do the same. His philosophy in life was to strive for greatness but also to seek joy and freedom, to avenge wrongs and bear grudges. If he considered the gains and losses in everything and hesitated in indecision, it would be suffocating for him. Ha ha. Lu Chongqing heard this and shook his head with a slight chuckle. In his mind, he understood what it meant to be a sword cultivator. His son was truly single-minded. Only with such a temperament could one be fearless and daring, wielding a sword and maximizing the power of the sword technique. Alright, since that is the case, your father will give you something that will aid you in the future. As Lu Chongqing spoke, he flipped his palm over and a thumb-sized orb of light, entwined with faint golden light, appeared in his hand. Dad, what is this?" Lu Qingshan looked at the seed of law in his father's palm with some astonishment and felt an inexplicable attraction to it. The next moment, he saw the orb of light merge into his brow. Instantly, 4 golden characters that seemed like iron strokes and elegant as a startled dragon appeared in his mind. Sword charging bull's might. Lu Qingshan looked at the four characters in his mind, unsure of what was happening. He saw the orb of light in his mind burst into tiny strands of golden sword chi, shimmering like stars, which filled him with an indescribable thrilling sensation, leaving him feeling ethereal. During this time, the spiritual power within his chi ocean core began to stir gently, with strands of golden light coursing through his dantian and meridians. Throughout this process, his already profound spiritual power was reinforced, and his dantian and meridians expanded. A moment later. Soar the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Boom. An inner stillness settled over Lu Qingshan. His cultivation level had broken through from the 7th level energy refinement to the peak of the 8th level energy refinement. And it seemed as though an eye had opened in his brow. Through this eye, he could clearly see his surroundings. Furthermore, he realized clearly that the advancement of his cultivation level was just a byproduct. What was truly astonishing was that his chi ocean core had nearly doubled in size. Storage of spiritual power, which was previously full, was now reduced to half. This remaining half of spiritual power was even more potent and vigorous than before. The effect is quite noticeable. Lu Chongqing observed the changes in his son, raising an eyebrow. The seed of law had effects that could enhance talent, sharpen the senses, ease temperament, elevate character, and compensate for deficiencies. But these effects were not immediate. They would slowly take effect over time, as cultivation improved, temperament aligned, gradually manifesting. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:12, Lu Chuanjin pays respects to uncle. So Lu Chongqing, upon seeing his son just receiving a Dao seed and immediately breaking through in cultivation level, increasing his foundation, and birthing divine sense, was slightly surprised. He knew that this improvement might seem small, but say nothing else, in the future, foundation establishment would be easily achievable for Lu Qingshan. This also made Lu Chongqing somewhat expectant of his son's future. After all, the greatest effect of this Dao seed was to enhance the sword Dao talent. Through enhancing the sword Dao talent, comprehension, foundation, combat power, cultivation speed, and other aspects, he would be able to make rapid progress solely in the sword Dao. Dad, what is this? Lu Qingshan opened his eyes, a face full of surprised confusion, not yet understanding what was going on. This is a sword Dao seed that your father obtained from abroad, and after use, it can enhance one's sword Dao talent. But this sword Dao seed does not match your father's temperament. The novel _Fire. Ed website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Only someone with a proud and valorous spirit, fearless and relentless, can see its effects. So your father thought about it, and decided to give this sword Dao seed to you, hoping that your path to immortality will be smoother, Lu Chongqing said with a light chuckle. Dad, you're so good to me, truly my real dad. Do you have any other treasures suitable for me? Lu Qingshan immediately sidled up, his face ingratiating. Lu Chongqing. Go, go, go. He pushed away his son with a look of disgust, then took out a jade slip and said, The great Gingjin sword art you are currently cultivating suits you well, but your father happens to have a sword technique cultivation method. Take a look now, it might be of good reference. He was always concerned about his son's cultivation methods. Over these days, he had learned that the sword technique his son was cultivating was called Great Gingjin Sword Art. This sword technique matched perfectly with the Gingjin body constitution. That was why Tianyuan True Immortal was adamant about taking Lu Qingshan as a disciple. To pass down this sword technique. Although this sword technique cultivation method was only of peripheral sect level and not as profound as his own 7 luminaries' Great Freedom Sword scripture. But at this stage, this sword technique truly suited Lu Qingshan more than the 7 luminaries sword scripture. Because the 7 luminaries great freedom sword scripture requires balancing the yin and yang, the 5 elements, and 7 attributes. If Lu Qingshan were to cultivate the 7 luminaries sword scripture now, it could even affect the efficacy of his Gingjin body constitution. Thus, Lu Chongqing did not think of having him switch cultivation paths, and showed the 7 luminaries sword scripture to his son, hoping it would be of some help. Technique. Lu Qingshan, hearing this, took the technique jade slip from his father's hands with a look of surprise. After a while, having read the content of the technique, he gasped and said to Lu Chongqing, "Dad, you are the heavenly chosen son from the stories, aren't you?" Wait, I'm the real heavenly chosen son. Dad, you have all these opportunities and good fortune, but they don't suit you and eventually all fall to me, making wedding clothes for me, ha ha ha. I really am a man of great fortune. Dad, rest assured, when I make it big in the future, I definitely won't forget you. I'll duly honor you, capturing all the fairies and demons for you. Lu Qingshan, hands on his hips, laughed uproariously. Naughty boy, you're so grown up and yet you can't behave properly. Lu Chongqing, seeing his son's silly face, knocked on his head, causing Lu Qingshan to immediately hold his head in pain. He then let his son ponder over this technique in the coming days. The matter of the technique and the sword Dao seed absolutely must not be made known to others. Dad, don't worry, I'm not stupid. I definitely won't let others find out. Lu Qingshan, mouth askew, said, rubbing his still slightly painful head. He thought to himself if his old dad had also refined his body, such strength in his blow. Alright, stop messing around, come on. Lu Chongqing spoke to his son and stood up to open the door. Dad, Mom will definitely secretly ask me what you wanted with me. If I say you gave me some treasures and you didn't give anything to little Zhu, wouldn't that seem biased? Lu Qingshan hurriedly followed, chuckling. That's not for you to worry about. Your father has already prepared everything. Lu Chongqing chuckled lightly, thinking to himself that at least he knew to secure benefits for his sister. Dad, you have more treasures, let me see. Lu Qingshan again made a face of flattery. Roll, 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 go away. Lu Chongqing, with a look of disdain, waved his hand, feeling this son was shameless. Where was there any hint of the typical cold and taciturn demeanor of a sword cultivator? But he felt much more at ease with this kind of temperament. If his son were one of those sword cultivators with a proud and sharp demeanor, looking down on others, his personality would worry him, and he wouldn't feel comfortable giving him the Dao seed. Red Leaf Valley Market. Lu Chuanjun looked at the sky gradually darkening outside, stepped out of the shop, and headed to the enforcement hall of the market. Chuanjun cousin, have you come here for something? A Lu family disciple from Qingzhou Mountain, seeing Lu Chuanjun, asked aloud. Due to the relationship between Bihu Mountain and Qingzhou Mountain, the disciples of the same generation referred to each other as cousins. Mu Jun cousin, I came here to check the marketplace's city entry registry information today, Lu Chuanjun said. City entry registry information, is there a robber cultivator or heretic cultivator mixed into the marketplace? The Lu family disciple asked seriously upon hearing this. That's not it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 813, Lu Chuanjun, Chuanjun pays respect to uncle. Using the Jade Scroll, based on the timestamp, Lu Chuanjun immediately identified a name, Zhao Changhe. Zhao Changhe, 9th level energy refinement, Lu Chuanjun muttered to himself as he looked at the name. Then, using the Jade Scroll again to check the identity Jade of the other party, he viewed the trajectory of his movements within the marketplace. Upon seeing that the other party had headed straight to his spiritual wine shop after entering the marketplace and then went to the Tion's everything shop after leaving, his gaze sharpened slightly. "Thank you, Cousin Mu Jun." Lu Quanzhen's expression returned to normal as he gave his thanks with clasped hands. Cousin Chuanzhen is too polite." This Lu family disciple said cheerfully. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Lu Chuanzhen bid his farewell and made his way to the Tion's everything shop. Through inquiries, he learned that today a young man in a black robe had come here to purchase information about By Lake Mountain and had acted somewhat oddly. Master Lu, source, web novel. Com, updated on N090, the shopkeeper, a middle-aged female cultivator, looked somewhat flustered as she faced Lu Chuanzhen. She had not expected selling one piece of information today to trouble the young master from By Lake Mountain enough to prompt his visit. Just act as if nothing happened. Lu Chuanzhen spoke with a calm demeanor, walked out of the store, paused for a moment to ponder, and then headed to a tavern. After asking around, he went to the 6th floor of the tavern and came to a room, knocking softly and saying, "Daoist Zhao." Chu Chang'e inside the room immediately recognized that it was Lu Chuanzhen outside. He wondered why Lu Chuanzhen had come to find him, especially since he did not recall giving Lu Chuanzhen this address. "Come in." He lifted his palm slightly, and the door swung open. "Daoist Lu, what brings you here to see Zhao?" Chu Chang'e looked at Lu Chuanzhen with a calm and detached expression. "Chuanzhen pays his respects to uncle." Lu Chuanzhen bowed deeply as he greeted. "You called me what?" Chu Chang'e was taken aback, his hand trembling slightly beneath the black wide robe, his voice sinking. "Uncle." Lu Chuanzhen continued. "How did you know about me?" Chu Chang'e did not deny it but instead asked aloud. He did not understand how, after seeing this nephew only once and having brief chat, the other side could have discerned his identity. "Because uncle came to see me today, and your behavior and mannerisms were a bit off, which led me to this conjecture." Seeing that the other had not denied it, Lu Chuanzhen knew he had guessed correctly. This made him pause internally, uncertain about the purpose of the other's visit. After all, when he was handling affairs at Rue Marquis Mansion in the mortal world, he had received a piece of news. His uncle, Chu Chang'e, had not died but had turned to demon cultivation. Oh. Chu Chang'e still did not see where he had given himself away, a smile emerging on his face as he spoke with interest. "Tell me, how did you conjecture it?" Saying this, he gestured for Lu Chuanzhen to sit down, then started to prepare tea. "Uncle came today, and his behavior did not seem like he was there to do business but rather to converse with me, which I found quite inexplicable." Lu Chuanzhen gently pinched the talisman in his sleeve, then seated himself at the table and said with reverence, "During our conversation, I was extra cautious and, through your accent and surname, I came to this suspicion." Accent, surname. Chu Chang'e seemed oblivious to the talisman in his nephew's sleeve, his face full of smiles, beckoning him to continue. "That's right, I once lived in Zhoushan Mansion for quite some time, and noticed a certain familiarity in your accent. Then, uncle, you used the surname Zhao, and it happens that my maternal grandmother's surname is Zhao. Also, my mother often reminisces about uncle, telling stories about you to us siblings, so I speculated about your identity." Lu Chuanzhen explained as such. "It shouldn't be just these reasons, should it?" Chu Chang'e looked at his nephew, smiling as he spoke. He felt that just these few conditions were not enough. "Today, after I had my suspicions, but was still unsure, I went through the marketplace to check today's city entry records. I saw the fake name Zhao Changhe that uncle used, and then noticed that uncle came directly towards me, and afterwards purchased information about By Lake Mountain, which gave me some confidence." Lu Chuanzhen continued calmly. "There must be other reasons too, right?" Chu Chang'e still wore a smile. Seeing his nephew infer so much from their simple conversation today brought him a great deal of satisfaction. Truly worthy of being a child of the Chu family, so astute. I was not entirely certain of the matter either, I just felt it was a possibility, so I came over to ask. I did not expect uncle to admit it straightforwardly. This is what Lu Chuanjin said. But if that's so, why were you holding a talisman in your sleeve? Chu Chang'e asked with a smile, his demeanor easygoing and refined. Seeing Lu Quanzhen's expression change, he immediately raised his hand and said, Chuanjin, no need to be nervous, uncle is just asking casually. At this moment, he candidly revealed his own identity. Since his nephew had already recognized him, he had nothing left to hide. I didn't expect uncle to have noticed. Lu Chuanjin felt a chill in his heart, not expecting his uncle to be aware that he was hiding a talisman in his sleeve. This indicated that the other party was definitely not merely at the 9th level energy refinement but had broken through to foundation establishment. Only the divine sense of foundation establishment could possess such keen insight. This revelation struck him with amazement, as he had not expected this uncle whom he had never met to be a foundation establishment great cultivator. Faced with this situation, he knew he couldn't play any tricks in front of the other. He immediately took out the talisman hidden in his sleeve, placed it on the side, and said with a bitter smile, because my mother often mentions uncle, and our family has always been looking for you, but there has been no news. Thinking that we should see each other alive or at least find the body if dead, so in my early years when I was handling affairs in the secular world, I investigated uncle's information and learned that 30 years ago in Zhoushan Mansion, a demon cultivator appeared, and this demon cultivator is very likely to be you, uncle. So, on this trip, I came with some caution in my heart, I hope uncle won't take offense. Lu Chuanjin no longer concealed anything and spoke openly. He knew that he couldn't play games in front of the other and could only bet that the other had no ill intent. A demon cultivator, Chu Chang'e immediately knew it must be the time when he returned home years ago, only to discover that his entire family had been wiped out, which caused the demonic blood within him to erupt. He laughed and said, hee, what's there to take offense at? In the cultivation world, it is necessary to be extra cautious. Yes, many years ago, due to some reasons, I walked the demon path and became a demon cultivator. Chu Chang'e admitted candidly. Then his facial features blurred for a moment as his disguise faded and he restored his true appearance. Although he regained his original look, his current appearance and demeanor were quite different from the uncle's temperament Lu Chuanjin had learned about from his mother Chu Zhenchen's descriptions and images. His face was stern, and there was an inexplicable demonic aura between his eyebrows. Xinjin, how has your mother been these past years? Chu Chang'e continued to speak, his voice somewhat hoarse and trembling. He had intended to go directly to Bai Lake Mountain today to see how his sister was doing, and to teach her husband a lesson. But after reading the information and making some simple inquiries, he learned that Lu Chongxing had a rather good reputation and was not the kind of energy-draining heretic cultivator or demon cultivator he imagined. In particular, he was famously good to his wives, and his sister Chu Xinjin was one of his official wives, not just a concubine. Consequently, he thought about further contact with his nephew, and to visit Bai Lake Mountain later, not expecting his nephew to take the initiative to come to him. Mother has been quite well these years, it's just that she often mentions uncle, as well as my grandparents, CTH novel, F. Iyer. In website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. And then these past years I've caused mother some worry, Lu Chuanjin began, slowly voicing his mother's situation. He roughly guessed that his uncle must have achieved success in cultivation, which is why he came back to visit his mother. Because from his mother's stories, he knew that the siblings were very close, and that his uncle was always especially caring towards her, his sister. Faced with this, he also played the familial card as much as possible to stabilize his uncle. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:14, The Wealthy and Boorish Uncle. Phoenix Gu. Red Leaf Valley Market. In a room of a restaurant, Chu Chang'e listened to his nephew's recount of their life over the years, the family situation, and the condition of his sister, Chu Zhenjin. Learning that after so many years his sister's nature was still carefree, naive, and cheerful as before, a hint of a smile emerged on his stern face, and the malevolent and evil chi between his brows softened considerably. Especially when he heard his nephew helplessly express that he and his siblings were being urged to marry by their mother, Chu Zhenjin, and he had no choice but to run here to manage the business, he couldn't help but chuckle. Chu Anjin, Yuzhen, Caizhen, Huaizhen. Chu Chang'e muttered the names of his 4 nephews and nieces. He knew that among the 4 nephews, Lu Chuanjin and Lu Caizhen possessed spiritual roots, while Lu Yuzhen and Lu Huaizhen were without, merely mortals. Sir the Novel Fire, net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. But the spiritual roots of Lu Chuanjin and another were poor, possessing only 8th grade spiritual root and 9th grade spiritual root. Chuanjin, what are your plans for the future? What do you desire? Chu Chang'e asked gently. Plans? Desires? Lu Chuanjin paused upon hearing his uncle's words, unsure if the other was testing him or was sincere. After a moment of thought, he said, I am quite satisfied with my current life. My only hope is that in the future I can break through to Foundation establishment so that I too have the ability to protect my family, protect my mother, brothers, and sisters. If I were to think further ahead, perhaps I would hope to explore the world after achieving Foundation establishment. Lu Chuanjin said. Although these words were not his complete thoughts, they were truly from his heart. Break through Foundation establishment, go out and see the world. Chu Chang'e nodded slightly. From the chat just now, he could see that his nephew was a very clever and opinionated person. These words might not be completely genuine, but they did contain quite a bit of truth. He understood this. Having met only a short while ago, how could the other completely trust him? Perhaps this nephew was only chatting with him because he was apprehensive of Chu Chang'e, unaware of his real situation. He whispered, with your 8th grade spiritual root, it won't be easy to break through Foundation establishment. True, but I believe in making efforts. Lu Quanzhen's expression was firm as he seriously said, my father only had a 9th grade spiritual root, but he still became a Foundation establishment cultivator. With the support of our family now, as long as I work hard, there is hope to break through Foundation establishment. Lu Changxing, when Chu Chang'e heard this, he looked at his nephew's determined expression, slightly startled. From information he naturally knew of his cheap brother-in-law's situation, and therefore suspected the other had turned to the demon path, the heretical path. After all, for a cultivator with a lower grade spiritual root to hope for Foundation establishment was exceedingly difficult, let alone 9th grade spiritual root. He asked, do you respect your father a lot? Yes, my father might have some shortcomings, but he is very kind to our mother, to us siblings. Lu Chuanjin recounted some family issues and his father, Lu Changsheng's matters. Like scrimping and saving, using cultivation resources for their stepmother and mother, laying foundations for himself and others. Mostly establishing the family for their sake, even if the family was always in deficit, to ensure they had sufficient cultivation resources and welfare benefits. As for his father's marriage and concubine matters, as a son, he felt it inappropriate to comment further. Listening to these words prompted Chu Chang'e to show a thoughtful look, somewhat eager to meet this cheap brother-in-law of his. His instincts told him that his brother-in-law surely had a big secret. Chuanjin, with your 8th grade spiritual root, it will be difficult for you to break through Foundation establishment in the future. This elixir medicine is called Heaven Replenishing Elixir. It has the effect of refining pure cultivator's spiritual roots. Take this elixir and it will enhance your spiritual root, aiding you. Chu Chang's hand revealed a black jade porcelain bottle, which he handed to Lu Chuanjin. He knew his nephew didn't trust him yet. So, he planned to let the other drop their guard by offering benefits. Moreover, the biggest barrier currently preventing his nephew from breaking through Foundation establishment was his spiritual root. Since that was the case, by enhancing his spiritual root, wouldn't that solve the problem? Heaven replenishing elixir, pure spiritual root effect. Lu Chuanjun, hearing this, looked at the porcelain bottle, his mental spirit shocked, unsure whether to believe these words. Even though he had never heard of the heaven replenishing elixir, he knew such elixir medicines capable of enhancing spiritual roots were extremely precious heavenly and earthly treasures. Once news spread, who knew how much chaos, bloodshed, and even coveting by nascent soul immortals it might incite. His uncle was actually able to produce such a rare elixir medicine, which made him inherently suspicious. But this elixir was obtained by chance. I'm not entirely sure of its efficacy or nature. Dare you try it? Chu Chang'e said with a smirk. Since uncle intends it, I am naturally willing to try. Lu Chuanjun thought for a moment and responded respectfully. He felt that the other had no reason to harm him. If he wanted to kill him, he could just act directly. Unless the other intended to control him through the elixir, thus targeting by Lake Mountain. But that seemed unlikely. Moreover, he dared to come over this time, having some preparation. It was the substitute talisman given by his father, Lu Chongqing, which could be activated to escape in any danger. He took the porcelain bottle, opened it, and poured out an elixir about the size of a longan, radiating a shimmering luster. The elixir medicine seemed to possess life, its glow flickering now and then, currents of light autonomously flowing. Heaven replenishing elixir. Lu Chuanjun gazed at the elixir medicine in his hand, his pupils constricting slightly. Based on the appearance alone, it was evident that this elixir medicine was extraordinary, different from the usual kinds. Immediately, he swallowed the elixir medicine. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 815, The Wealthy and Boorish Uncle. Phoenix Goo. Boom. The moment Lu Chuanjun took the elixir medicine, an extremely mysterious sensation immediately surged through his body. Spiritual root. His spiritual root was throbbing. A mysterious force was causing his spiritual root to pulsate. Faced with this situation, Lu Chuanjun hurriedly sat cross-legged without moving and began to assimilate the effects of the elixir medicine. Hee. Chu Chang'e watched his nephew acting so resolutely and decisively, without any hesitation or delay. A smile appeared on his face. He said the medicinal effects and properties of the elixir medicine were all intentionally misleading. He wanted to see how his nephew would react. At this moment, seeing his nephew behave in such a way, he was very satisfied. On one hand, he was satisfied with his nephew's trust in him. On the other hand, he was satisfied that his nephew acted decisively. After all, the cultivation world highly disapproved of indecisive characters. His own nephew was not only careful and intelligent, recognizing him as an uncle through simple conversation, but also had a stable character. Even when he discovered a hidden talisman, his expression changed only slightly before returning to normal. Now, facing the elixir medicine given by himself, his nephew's decisiveness, without any hesitation, filled him with relief. He believed that his nephew would have no difficulty in achieving foundation establishment in the future. As for core formation, that would depend on his fate. However, when that time came, he, as an uncle, would not mind helping a bit more if he could. Time passed bit by bit. After a long while, Lu Chuanjun opened his eyes and could distinctly feel that his spiritual root had improved. However, he himself was not clear by how much. Chu Chang'e stepped forward, placed his palm on his nephew's shoulder, and checked the condition of his spiritual root. At this moment, Chu Chang'e noticed a spirit talisman within his nephew's sea of consciousness at the brow chakra. This talisman was extraordinary, probably reaching the 3rd rank. He did not touch the talisman. He realized it must be the life-saving talisman of his nephew. As for how it came into being, knowing his brother-in-law's reputation as a second-order top-level talisman master, he guessed it must have been given by him. He was pleased that someone could give such a rare spirit talisman to his nephew. Not bad, 4th grade spiritual root. Chu Chang'e withdrew his hand and said with a light chuckle. 4th grade spiritual root. Lu Chuanjun was shocked upon hearing this. He knew that a 4th grade spiritual root was already a middle grade top-tier spiritual root, just one step away from becoming a high-quality spiritual root. With an 8th grade spiritual root, he could not guarantee a breakthrough in foundation establishment in the future. But now, with his own 4th grade spiritual root, he was confident that he could surely succeed in foundation establishment. Chuanjun thanks uncle. Lu Chuanjun looked at Chu Chang'e in front of him, took a deep breath, and respectfully bowed. At this moment, he knew his uncle was no ordinary foundation establishment cultivator. An ordinary foundation establishment cultivator could never produce such a level of elixir medicine. Nor could they easily give such a rare elixir medicine to him. What are you thanking for? Just take this fruit as well. Chu Chang'e then took out a fist-sized purple golden fruit. It had patterns resembling dragon scales and was emanating a rich and fragrant scent. Uncle, one should not accept rewards without merit. With the earlier heaven-replenishing elixir, Chuanjun already doesn't know how to thank you, let alone accept such a precious spirit fruit. Lu Chuanjun spoke respectfully. He did not recognize the fruit in front of him. But he could tell from its quality that it was no ordinary item. At this moment, he truly didn't understand what his uncle was up to, giving him things so generously upon their first meeting. He had not even recovered from the shock of having a 4th grade spiritual root and wanted to experience the effects through cultivation. This is an introductory gift from your uncle, just a token of affection, please accept it. Chu Chang'e asserted, his voice carrying an undeniable firmness. Thank you, uncle. Lu Chuanjun, hearing this, took a deep breath, took the spirit fruit, bowed deeply, and then took a bite. But the dragon scale fruit was very hard, he was not able to bite through it. This spirit fruit is known as the dragon scale fruit. It has marrow cleansing and hair furrowing effects, enhances cultivation level, and solidifies the foundation. To consume it, you need to crack it open with an instrument made of gung metal. Chu Chang'e softly explained and took out a small golden hammer, tapping it gently on the dragon scale fruit, causing the scales to fall off. Dragon scale fruit. Marrow cleansing and hair furrowing, enhances cultivation level, and solidifies the foundation. Lu Chuanjun, upon hearing this, looked at the dragon scale fruit in his hand with a doubtful expression and asked, Uncle, do I need to return to my home's practice room and enter closed-door cultivation to consume it? Either way. Chu Chang'e said indifferently. CTH novel, F. Iyer. Any website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Hearing his uncle say this, Lu Chuanjun did not ask further. After a moment, when the dragon scale fruit was completely cracked open, it turned into a fruit glowing with a golden sheen. Lu Chuanjun didn't hesitate. Under Chu Chang'e's watchful eyes, he consumed the fruit. The fruit was fragrant and melted in the mouth. Then it turned into a majestic and pure power that surged into every limb and every vein. At this moment, Lu Chuanjun only felt a warm sensation all over his body. But when the dragon scale fruit was completely consumed, this essence of mighty power swept through his body like a towering giant wave. Boom, 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 inside Lu Quanzhen's body, it was like a volcanic eruption, rumbling loudly, his body continuously trembling, and filthy blood and sweat oozing out from his pores. Chuanjun, the process will be a bit painful. Chu Chang'e said softly, flicking out small flags, forming a prohibition in the room to prevent too much disturbance. After all, although the room was equipped with a prohibition, it was merely a simple soundproofing, and not very effective. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Lu Chuanjun didn't speak, nor could he, his face showed a look of pain. He felt every inch of his skin and every piece of flesh undergoing an indescribable transformation, an extreme pain. Despite the pain, he could clearly feel his physical body growing stronger, expelling impurities, and making his meridians and bones much tougher. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:16, The Wealthy Uncle. Phoenix Goo. At the same time, his bottleneck at the 6th level energy refinement was also breached in that moment. Effortlessly, as naturally as water flowing into a channel. After breaking through to the 7th level energy refinement, his cultivation level continued to climb. 7th level energy refinement peak. SEA the Novel Fire. In website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. 8th level energy refinement. Boom. In a short while, his cultivation level had broken through to the 8th level energy refinement. Moreover, this cultivation level continued to rise, almost reaching the peak of 8th level energy refinement. In that moment, even Lu Chuanjun himself was astonished. He felt the effects of the dragon scale fruit were too exaggerated. It had allowed him to break directly from the 6th level energy refinement to the 8th level energy refinement. Moreover, he could distinctly feel that, compared to the rise in cultivation level, the main enhancements provided by the dragon scale fruit were to his physical body, meridians, bones, and foundation. He opened his eyes and saw a stench surrounding him. Beside him, Chu Chang'e gently lifted his hand, and a breeze dispersed the foul stench and impurities from Lu Quanzhen's body, turning them into flying ash. Chuanjun thanks uncle. At this moment, Lu Chuanjun was almost at a loss for words. Facing his uncle, he sincerely knelt down and paid his respects. If he had had any suspicion or doubt about this uncle before, the heaven-replenishing elixir and the dragon scale fruit had dispelled all such feelings. There simply was no need. If the other party truly had ill intentions against him, why would they spend such a great cost? The elixir and fruit were indeed priceless treasures, impossible to measure with spirit stones. Someone as insignificant as him was definitely not worth such a great cost pursued by the other party. So it was purely out of kinship. Because of his mother, that he was treated so kindly. Chuanjun, no need to be so formal. Chu Chang'e showed a smile on his face, sensing genuine sincerity in his nephew's words. He knew at this moment his nephew had come to trust him. He then asked, "Your mother, Yuzhen, Caizhen, Huaizhen, do they usually stay at Bai Lake Mountain?" "Yes, mother usually spends her time at Bai Lake Mountain and seldom goes out. If uncle wishes to see mother, I can invite her to stay in Red Leaf Valley Market for a while. She would certainly be very happy to learn that uncle is still alive." Lu Chuanjun said, his tone becoming more intimate as he spoke to Chu Chang'e. "You country. In a courtyard. What is going on?" Lu Chongqing was utterly confused. He had just felt a profound and mysterious fluctuation, immediately realizing that a child with a 4th-grade spiritual root had been born. But the next moment, he realized he should not have any children being born right now. Then, after checking through the system, he saw no birth of a newborn. This left him very confused. Then, just as he was pondering over what was happening, thinking it was a misconception, suddenly another wave of mana surged out of nowhere, forming a droplet of liquid mana. This mana was not much. But it was the most mana bonus he had ever received. Even more than when his son, Lu Qingshan, broke through from the 7th level energy refinement to the 8th level energy refinement. This? Lu Chongqing was very confused. "Chongqing, what's wrong?" Beside him, Lu Miaoge noticed her husband looked troubled and immediately expressed concern. "It's nothing, just thinking about something." Lu Chongqing shook his head as he spoke. But his curiosity could not be suppressed, claiming he had a sudden spark on the talisman path and needed to digest it. Faced with this reason, Lu Miaoge, Lu Miaohuan, and others did not press further. Soon after, Lu Chongqing went to his room and began checking on his children's conditions through the system. After a long time, name, Lu Chuanjin, lifespan, 28 of 111, talent, 4th grade spiritual root, cultivation level, 8th level energy refinement, talent, management compatibility, 61%, what's going on? How did Quanzhen's spiritual root become 4th grade, and how did he suddenly break through from 6th level to 8th level energy refinement? Lu Chongqing looked at his son's attribute panel, completely baffled. If it were just a breakthrough from the 6th level to the 7th level, he could understand. After all, it was normal for Lu Chuanjin, who had been at a bottleneck for many years, to make a breakthrough. But the problem was, not only did the cultivation level break through 2 levels, but the spiritual root also upgraded from 8th grade to 4th grade. Could Chuanjin have encountered some situation, some fortuitous event? But isn't he still managing business at the Red Leaf Valley Market right now? And the heavenly and earthly treasures that could enhance a spiritual root are at least 3rd rank, extremely rare. Given Quanzhen's situation, it should be very difficult for him to come into contact with such items. Lu Chongqing was very puzzled and really wanted to go home to see what was going on with this son. But at this moment, he could only suppress the curiosity and confusion in his heart. When he returned to the courtyard, the sky had already darkened. Lu Chongqing called his wife to bed, talking about going back. Hearing this, the 2 women also knew that they had been out for quite a while. They suggested that once this trip was nearly over, they would send the children back to the Jinyang sect and then start their journey home. Jin Kingdom, 5 Poisons Cult. Inside a magnificent hall. Nangong Mili, in a purple palace dress, her figure graceful and enchanting, gazed at the dark golden bowl covered in patterns in her hands. Within the bowl, there was a goo resembling a silkworm, its body golden and translucent, twinkling brilliantly. This goo insect had streams of resplendent luster flowing through it, dreamy and illusory, as if a silkworm cocoon. Yet, amidst the luminous diffusion, it constantly transformed its appearance and shape, at moments resembling a purple butterfly emerging from its cocoon, at others a mythical phoenix born of fire, mysterious and magnificent, dazzling and enchanting. Phoenix goo. Nangong Mili watched the goo, her emotions swirling complexly. When she first heard about the Lockhart goo from her disciple Meng Xiaochan, she immediately applied to the sect for a phoenix goo, hoping to use it to neutralize the effects of the Lockhart goo. But phoenix goo was rare, and the only one in the sect had been used by the 5 Poisons sect leader for healing. Because of this, she waited 10 years, only today obtaining a newly refined phoenix goo. Lu Chongqing. Nangong Mili's sensually red lips parted slightly, and in her mind appeared the image of a handsome man. For these 10 years, she had been trying her best to forget Lu Chongqing. Due to the Lockhart Gus effects, which made one uncontrollably develop romantic feelings for the host. These feelings of love would ferment over time and interaction, growing stronger and stronger. Until one was hopelessly in love, wholeheartedly devoted, even losing oneself. For these 10 years, although she had stayed away from Lu Chongqing and tried to suppress her feelings, the past interactions, the misty sky bead inside her body, the golden core charm, her daughter Nangong Yaoyao, all made it impossible for her to completely forget him. At this moment, she even doubted whether her feelings and impressions of Lu Chongqing came from the Lockhart goo or were genuinely from her heart. Real yet false. When false is real, real becomes false, false becomes real. Who can distinguish? I, Nangong Mili, even if I were to like a man, would not be overly sentimental and sensitive. Nangong Mili's expression turned cold and indifferent, her phoenix eyes clear and piercing, as she cast aside the chaotic thoughts in her mind. She then sent a message to her disciple Meng Xiaochan, stating that she intended to undergo closed-door cultivation, asking her to take good care of her daughter Nangong Yaoyao during this time. When mentioning her daughter Nangong Yaoyao, a radiant, maternal smile immediately appeared on her charming and bewitching face. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible.